Um, yeah, man, where to start? Shit, there's a lot of things to talk about. I gotta butter you up so you feel like getting into the juicy bits, you know?
Honestly, man, I've told all the stories 20 times before. Just
That
dive in when you
sucks.
feel the need.
That sucks, man. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
went for the strategy of not spoiling myself by doing any research, because I felt like that would
Okay.
make for a more genuine interaction. But if you've done 20 of these type of things, now I don't have the
I
cool
mean,
questions to hit you with that other people haven't. It'll just be, I know what you're
uh,
saying. Repeating yourself, it is a bit of a chore.
well, no, it's not even that. It's just more so like I guess it's kind of like a thread of what defines me as a public figure at this point.
Mm.
So it's not that it's always repetitive or redundant or anything like that. Everybody has their own twist or unique element to their questioning that I think draws something new out. But yeah, I mean, like, if we get into the backstory of like how did I get into poker and like, how I was raised and stuff like that, it's gonna be kind of old hat.
Yeah. I tried to prepare some shit, so I'll like kind of go through a list at some point if we're like running out of shit to say, that type of thing.
Sure.
I got like some visuals in the background, so maybe you wanna open the stream, turn the volume off, just so you can see what I might be displaying.
Okay, cool.
It may be a hand at some point, something like that.
Yeah, where can I find a link to it?
Yep, just go like search Kaki T, one word, KAKITEE,
Okay.
Twitch, and it should
Okay, cool.
come up. We'll leave Shauna Hyatt up there for now. Maybe she's good. She's a good visual.
Man, I'm so rarely on my laptop, and I just so happen to be right now because I'm getting set up to start streaming myself
Ooh,
on my
okay.
desktop.
On Twitch or for like something to do with your product?
I'm probably gonna do it on YouTube, but I guess it doesn't hurt to just do it on both platforms. Honestly, it's just we have a
I think it's some kind of hassle. I haven't done it personally, but I don't really know.
Yeah,
much.
we just already have the YouTube following, so it seems like it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
To just follow through with that, but yeah, my friend's actually setting up the stream there, and I can't remember the last time I haven't had two monitors available to me, so I just have everything kind of jumbled up on the screen right now.
Yeah, laptop, single, small monitor, not really ideal for this kind of shit, but
brutal, but it'll work.
You'll make it through. So how old are you then, mate?
38.
38, okay. Pushing along there.
Oh yeah, super old.
You don't have kids though, I'm guessing. What's up with that?
I don't know, man.
In terms of plans, at least, not in terms of why don't you?
Yeah, no. I don't have any plans. I always thought I would end up like married with kids, but I think that's just like from growing up in a traditional, I guess, area in the Rust Belt of Western PA. You just kind of like are born into this idea of you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you retire, you die, and poker really takes you out of that. You kind of get to live a lot more freely. So I shifted off of that. I'm lucky enough to have a nephew who's 21 now that I've pretty much raised since birth. So I kind of had a go at being a dad a little bit, I guess. Maybe not in a traditional sense, but
no, that's cool. I mean, for sure you can get that stuff. You notice with big families, people often like they won't have kids, but they'll be like super involved in helping with other people's kids and whatnot, and that gives them that sense of I don't know, having passed on something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super open to the idea of it, but I just I don't foresee me landing in some sort of long-term relationship in the short run. So I would be one of the old dads if that ended up being the case.
Yeah, I might be following that path, but we'll see, man. Who really knows?
Yeah, just try not to just leave your options open. There's no reason to like try to predict how life is gonna carry out.
I'm at the point where I'm trying to create a bit of structure. I've been playing it fast and loose for a fucking long time. So
sure.
I don't really know. For me, I'm 32.
Okay.
I started pretty young. Like I was smoking weed when I was 12. Just had a lot of control over what I was doing at a young age, which is not really a thing you want to do like for a child. But it's interesting having come out of it. I don't know. I feel like wise in many ways, but in others, still quite childish.
Yeah, when you say you had control, you mean that like you just had like a lot of responsibility, or you were trusted with? I guess a lot of.
I think I was just such a prick, like such an intelligent little prick, and my parents divorced, so they didn't really want to have the wrath of the little annoying cunt on them. you know? So they'd always
Right,
just
right.
try and like, you know, like maybe guide me in the right direction, but let me be the one making the decision so I wouldn't be stamping my feet in their face, you know?
Yeah,
And I
I
think
totally
because of
get you.
that, I got way too much control. So poker like suited me perfectly because I don't want a fucking job. I'm not going to have a boss. I'll probably think he's, you know, a tool or whatever. At least at that
Yeah,
point, I've changed slightly since then. But that's my sort of foundation within me, is that kind of arrogant asshole of a child who just thinks he's better than everyone. So I'm trying to come out of that. And for me, discipline's been quite a hard thing to find since I've never had to have it. I've never been in a problem financially since I found poker pretty early. Yeah, don't know. We've got kind of
yeah.
different stories, I guess.
Well, sort of. I mean, they're kind of like the opposite end of the same spectrum, I guess. I was entrusted with a ton of responsibility and freedom as a kid, kind of born out of the same circumstance. My parents divorced very young. It was a very abusive marriage for my mother and my dad. My mom turned to drugs, so I like I was being left home alone by the time I was 5 or 6. I was helping to care for my younger sister by the time I was 7 or 8. I was making sure I was getting myself to school by the time I was in second grade, things like that. And I guess it took me down the same path that you're kind of describing, where it's like I never wanted dependency. I never wanted to have a boss. I never wanted to be told what to do. I was so like thrust into trusting myself to do everything that there was no part of me that really wanted to ever, or there was no part of me, I guess, that like ever saw how other people could just like collectively listen to a higher up, so to speak. So I was just kind of like always beating to my own drum. I wanted to be a professional athlete, and when that fell through, I just kind of like trusted that I'd fall on my feet somehow, and poker kind of filled that gap.
That's interesting, yeah, because a lot of people in a circumstance like you listed, they'd be like, well, fuck, I have to just leave school and start working to get money, because money's the most
Right.
important thing, because money gives for all the people I need to provide. So a lot of people take that, but I guess you were looking more like, how do I fix it long term? Maybe without having to have the boss, or like,
Yeah.
did you start
Yeah.
playing when you were 18, or like, what's the deal? 21, I guess, for you guys in the States?
Yeah. I played like stud variants in my teenage
Nice,
years just with
nice.
friends.
No
Just all the
limit,
wild
five
card
card
bullshit.
draw,
We didn't even know what no
no
limit
blocker,
was, to be
all in.
honest. Yeah. I mean, we were playing like some sort of weird version of spread limit where table stakes eluded us, and we would be betting anywhere from like a quarter to $5, but then suddenly if you wanted to, you could just like bet some figurative amount that didn't mean anything, like, I bet $200 here, when nobody even had that kind of money. Um but yeah, I didn't take it very seriously until I was 21. That was when the moneymaker boom hit. um, and it just happened to coincide with me being of age, being able to travel to card rooms, being able to actually make pretty reasonable money for that age. And kind of speaking to your earlier point, I was always kind of a big picture kind of thinker, I guess. We never had money, so it wasn't very relevant or important to me, and I didn't really think of like it never even crossed my mind that I should consider getting out of school and working hard. And I never even really had a job growing up, despite the fact that I was in impoverished conditions. Um, I just always viewed it as a pursuit towards something bigger, and I knew that like college was always going to be in my future, and something better lied ahead. So when I started making money hand over fist in poker, it was kind of weird. Like the first time I saw $10,000, it was like, this is more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. What the hell am I supposed to do with this kind of thing? So it was like kind of stuffing it under the mattress and saving it for a rainy day type of mentality.
Nice. Yeah, man. That's solid, bro. Were you a degen gambler at any point? I remember early in my career, I was like, "Fucking, I can beat blackjack." I saw a movie. These MIT guys. Were you ever stuck your
Sure.
whole roll on like the table games or no?
Only in poker. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
zero gamble in me outside of poker. For whatever reason, I think it's the control element where we know it's enough of a skill game where we recognize, I guess, that we are the ones making the ultimate decision at the end of the day, as far as like where the bottom line's coming from. So that element of it allowed me to go super hard where I was under rolled, and I believed that like I could overcome all the greatest variants. But when it came to sports betting or table games or everything else, I was terrified of that kind of stuff growing up, because it was just kind of beaten into me that debt was like the worst thing that could ever occur. And making bets with money that you didn't have was like a really dangerous avenue to go down. And I was just very, kind of like high and tight whenever it came to sticking to the rules.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's great advice. Whoever instilled that in you, like no one really knows that. People get out of fucking whatever, buy a car. Like they just start life in debt. They're like, oh, it's
Right.
standard to be in debt, and then they pay a percent of their life to the banks, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, in adulthood, responsible debt is very reasonable, but there's a big difference between taking out a low interest mortgage and betting $10,000 on a game that you don't have the money for, and then having to deal with loan sharks and
Right.
whatever else
Yeah.
may come of it.
It's certainly worse. Yeah, that's so. I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, you started out live. I guess I was the same. Did you play much online? I feel like you didn't really, but maybe you would have had a go at some point, right? Like put in some amount of hands.
Yeah, I was a pretty big hybrid for probably the first 7 years. So 2003 to 2010, I was trying to feel my way through online, where the live realm was just so soft, and I had so many good games available to me. I was just making a lot of money, and I would take like 10-15% of whatever my live roll was and just throw it online. And I experimented everything. I was playing like $500 sit and goes to heads up PLO to full ring no limit, whatever I could kind of get my hands on and just kind of like reverse engineer the game as best I could. I was basically break even for the first 5 or 6 years, and then in 2009 I dusted off my live roll, and I was living with Brent Hanks at the time, who offered to stake me in online tournaments. Um,
I feel
and
like
so
we
from
got to
August
pause
2000,
there and learn about the
sure.
dusted off roll. The dusted
It's
off
not
roll
as
sounds
exciting as
good.
it sounds.
Was
Sure.
it a Bryn Kenny
Uh,
$1 million buy-in tournament?
No, no, no. Although I did play with Bryn a lot in my come ups. So Turning Stone, New York was 18 and over, and it was about 3 hours away from where I went to college, and that's where like all the young online grinders would come to play these live series. So I played with Bryn a lot. I played with Ike. Pretty much everybody who's from the East Coast in that age bracket would find their way at Turning Stone. So we did do a lot of like live battle way back when they were like 18, 19 years old. Um, but yeah, the way I dusted it off was just strictly being underrolled for pretty much every game I ever played, and gambler's ruin fallacy eventually kicked in. If you're constantly taking on more risk without acknowledging that you're constantly at risk, eventually you'll just reach ruin, and I did. Um,
I thought you were a
so
man who sticks to the rules, though. You're playing on a 5 buy-in roll, man. Come on, mate. That's a
not
bit,
not
a
back
bit of a
then.
contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, whenever it came to poker, that sense of control and arrogance that like just kind of overtook me,
Yep.
especially with how soft the market was back then.
Yeah.
I made tremendous bankroll errors. The first 3 times I went broke were probably all due to just mismanaging my money, but it's a part of like being in your early 20s and having more money than you know what to do with anyway. Um, so yeah, I melted down like a 40 or 50K roll, kind of like firing an uncapped 5-10 games, 10-20 games, whatever.
You
Uh,
got to tell us a pot that you like lost that was massive, though. You don't remember, or
Honestly, I don't. It
yeah,
wasn't anything exciting. The second time I went broke was, or I guess, sorry, not the second time. The last time I went broke. So the third time I went broke. The last time I went broke, 2012. That was a little bit more exciting. I had a real bankroll to work with. I had made a deep run in the main event in 2010. Finished 41st for like 200K. Made another
that's
World
brutal.
Series final table. Yeah,
That's
it did feel
that's
brutal at the
it's the
time.
worst, eh? Like
I
40th
felt
place,
amazing.
30th place. It's like, oh, dude, you're so close. The dream's
I
right
mean,
there.
now I would be heartbroken over it
Yeah,
because I've had scores that big and it's not going to change my life. But like winning the main event could.
it's a sick
Uh,
one.
back
Yeah,
back then, like that 200K score was like, okay, I actually am rolled for 1020 now. This is incredible. Like I was happy as could be. But I overextended myself again. I spent the next like 18 months playing 1020 myself, sometimes bigger, 25-50, whatever. And then I was also backing 3 of my friends playing 510 uncapped.
were they
So
bad
like,
as well?
they were like break even players,
Yeah.
but collectively they lost like 100K. I was putting them in like $3,500 main events,
At
just
least you didn't get
really, really
scammed.
firing.
I got scammed when I staked a bunch of people online. Just post on 2+2. Hey man, I coach you guys. You guys make money. It's all good. Everyone scammed me. It's like I didn't play it very
That's
well, but I mean, I
yeah.
came out with a lesson, I guess.
Yeah, same. I mean, I didn't really invest my money too wisely here, but the way I ended up going broke ultimately was I melted my 300K down to about 25, and I just happened to notice on Bravo on Easter Sunday, 2012, that there was a 10-20 or a 5-10-20 game going at Venetian. So I took my last 25K, sprinted down there, slapped it on the table, and got dealt in.
Did Garrett buy in position and cover you?
No, but there was a reg to my left. Yeah, Garrett and I hadn't played at this point.
Yeah.
But there was a reg who I battled a lot with, who was immediately to my left, and he had about the same amount as me. Maybe covered me slightly. I can't recall if I left with crumbs or not. But like the third hand dealt to me. I get pocket kings in the cutoff. I open. I think I opened like, I don't know, something obnoxiously large, like 120 or something like that. And he just like makes it 700 on the button. So I of course 4-bet.
What did you go for?
I think I made it. I made it. I also made it like obnoxiously large. I think I made it like. Yeah, it's 2012.
This is Teddy KGB against Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2012. We're 25K deep. So I think he goes like 700, and I think I go like 4,200, and he just rips it for 25K.
Oh, that's so sick. Yeah.
So I snap, of course.
Oh damn.
What else
all right.
With literally case money. Literally just every
well,
cent
you
on the
never
line.
have slept at night unless he showed you aces after you folded.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
And I go once or twice, and he goes, I only run it once. And it's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, man. You have my case money on the table, but I can't say anything.
Why not?
So
you say so. You'd be like, look, bro, come on, man. Come on, man. I'm a nice guy, I swear.
Not in 2012, man. Pride was way bigger than money.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, as far as everybody knew, I was the guy who graduated these stakes, and like this wasn't that big of a deal to me.
You didn't want to lose that image, man. Yeah.
Right. So we get it in. I roll over kings. He rolls over ace king suited.
Oh my god, you had him beat. That's so sick.
He flops me dead. Just ace deuce.
Yeah. Jeez.
And so like I tucked my tail. I walk away. I'm broke for the next year, but I retooled my entire game. And by the time World Series 2013 rolled around, I ended up making, I think, 3 or 4 final tables, cash for over $500,000, and like was in the big game within 3 months.
I never cashed a 10K, bro. Fuck 20s.
Really?
Fuck 20s.
Man.
I played like 5 or 6 of them. I quit them. I'm not good enough for a tournament, man. Can't do it.
Maybe you're not bad enough for a tournament, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know if you know anything about me. I basically I played live like when I started out, but I started playing online. I got Supernova Elite in 2010. I kind of just was over poker. I don't know if you saw Doug Polk post a video recently.
Yeah.
He's quit. He's just like sort of sick of this shit. That's how I felt at that point. I also, when I was considering making a comeback, I basically just spent my entire roll over the course of like 6 years. I played some Plo and made some money though.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to go off topic here for a minute, man.
No. I think that's relevant. So you're currently still playing online though, mostly, right?
I started back up, yeah. One thing I'll touch on just quickly is like when I started, or at least around that time, there was no like you can just copy a dude's game type of thing going on that there is now. It's like you had to figure out how to win on your own. So I can relate to what Polk was talking about. He was saying like, oh, I hate this shit. You know, like everything's just like check us over. Oh, 27% check raise. That was kind of a quote that he made. For what it's worth, I actually don't like Doug Polk, but I totally agree with him on this point.
I agree with both of those points. I think solvers have made the game very uninteresting, at least from the way that I learned it.
That's how I felt as well. But then I was like, fuck, I'm actually just good, and there's no way that people are playing this correctly. The only thing that sucks is that people can build databases of like pre-solved hands and then have like voice to activate them. Do you know what I mean? You could be like 7-3 deuce, rainbow, big blind versus cutoff, single raise pot, you know, and it would just bring up the sim.
Hold on a second.
Are you cool?
Hold up. Sorry.
You're right, man.
They were testing the sound on the stream, and my speaker went haywire. I actually agree with all that. I was shocked whenever Doug had me on his podcast for him to we were just like kind of going back and forth, and like, you know, he went at me pretty hard back in the day.
Did he go for a grill?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It was good business tactics. Let's put it that way. But you know, when it was all said and done, we're like going back and forth, and he and I kind of arrived to the same point in our career the exact same way. Like, I remember playing in a live event with him where we were discussing like our like Google Drives and how deeply built out they were. And that, effectively, like, there's so much strategy top to bottom through all these folders and layers that we had created that, like, it would be priceless for us to ever divulge all that. This is like 2013, 2014. 2 years later, with the advent of solvers, it's like all of that work that we had been doing for, half a decade, fleshing out strategy, reverse engineering stuff, it all became like pretty much rendered useless immediately because the solver is able to do this very quickly. Like, the principles that you kind of discover by playing a lot of reps and thinking about the game very deeply, understanding the importance of suitedness or position or certain characteristics of ranges and how they construct, how flop textures interact, etc. All of that just gets immediately circumvented by a solver just showing you the EV differences.
You guys were effectively like Doyle Brunson, just running a 52 card deck out and seeing what hand wins more often.
Right. In a very simple way, yeah. So like we were kind of having this discussion on his podcast, and he said something that like kind of caught me off guard, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you attacked people for not quote unquote playing GTO or whatever. He's like, I've never even run a solve. And I'm like, what? Like, how have we gotten this far? But then I kind of understood, like, he had already stopped playing heads up by the time that like solvers became a big part of the game, and he had moved away from actually being a big player. And I get it, because it's one of those things where it's like when you spend so much time tearing strategy games apart in order to kind of give yourself an edge ahead of the field, it sucks when software can just do what you do, only infinitely better and more efficiently than you ever could. It's like a pretty helpless feeling, I think.
Yeah, well, I guess, like, for me personally, you sound like you put in the hard work to, like, teach yourself how to have the skill. Whereas I was kind of just... Can you hear me, bro?
Yep.
Whereas I was kind of just, like, naturally talented at stuff. So for me, it was tilting in a different sense. It was like, well, fuck this. So I'm going to go playing against these, like, nit puss regs who just copy strategy, and it's, like, going to beat me. That's fucking tilting. But I was like, nah, fuck that. Like... Yeah. Basically, I had a mate who continued grinding the entire time that I'd quit. And he's, like, established himself pretty well. Like, he doesn't play high stakes every day, but if there's a fish, he sits at 5,100. Like, he's a pretty boss player, like, online.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was getting more, like, deeper and deeper into, like, solving hands and shit like that. And he would often bring them up with me, because we'll just, like, sometimes talk about poker, even though I stopped playing. And I was always, like, finding it quite interesting how sick some of the actions and lines that you're supposed to take are. And I was saying to him, bro, you got to use an RNG when you play. You got to use an RNG. And he was like, I can't be fucked, man. I'm like, bro, how do you know that you're doing something enough times? And he's like, just kind of feel it out. But he's like a ridiculously sick player. People that are so fast at stuff? Say it's like a clock format game. This dude will act within like 5 seconds because he uses all of your time to come up with what he's going to do against what you might do. Obviously, you can catch him off guard. But the pressure's always on you against a guy like this. He's like very, very fast with his mind. I'm more of a tanker. Like, I'm umming and ahhing, I'm trying to cover all my bases, and then occasionally I'll, like, totally forget something obvious, So that's kind of how I roll. But yeah, anyway, it just got me, like, kind of interested in Hold'em. At this point, I'd just been playing Plo a bit, like, just casually, because it was super fucking easy, basically. And, like, people are nowhere near the stage of skill in Plo that they are in Hold'em. So it's just like, you can just play Plo and just be, like, decent thinker, and you'll probably crush people. If you look at the Plo regs win rates, they're like double all the best Nolima Hold'em players' win rates at mid stakes, because it just shows how far away people are. It's like 10 BB instead of 5, basically.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. There's a lot more variance. The equities run closer, so it's like when people are making big errors, they're really egregious. And
it's a fish-friendly game, though. If you're a fish, you want to have 40% equity. You don't want to have 0.
Agreed. Yeah.
But it sucks that you can't bet more than the pot. You got to be able to bet more than the pot.
Imagine if you could. It wouldn't be a very fish-friendly game anymore.
Pre-flop pot, post-flop uncapped.
Interesting.
Be kind of cool, but whatever. Like, it would destroy fish so bad. The thing is, they'd always just open rip, like, top set or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it would just be kind of... I don't know. It would still create a lot of interesting spots. I think it would be slightly better than Plo as is. By the way, just off-topic slightly again, we should get back to what you were talking about before, which I believe was you dusted your roll off in 2009, and then you're building it back up. That's where we were at in the actual story. But just to cover one thing quickly, have you ever seen this hand? It's a kind of a famous online hand between OTB Red Baron and Kanu 7. 200, 400, King 9-3 Rainbow.
Yeah.
King 9-3 Rainbow, blind v blind, single raise pot. OTB's in position. Kanu checks as the preflop raiser, King 9-3 Rainbow. OTB bets 75% pot. Does this ring any bells? Basically, on the river, he's going to make a massive shove. Okay, I'll bring that up later then.
I was thinking of another one, but go ahead.
Nah, should we do that now, or you want to go back to the story?
Go ahead, man. Just fire away. Let's go.
Fire away. All right, so check out on the stream. I'll pull up this hand, bro. This is a sick hand. Or maybe I got to find this shit. Oh, here we are. Can you see this on the stream? I got like a little hand replayer up.
Yep.
Oh, you can't see this properly. You can't see the bottom dude's chips. I see. Maybe if I do this and this. Yeah, that will be fine. You can see the bottom guy's stack now, right? Yeah. And just for what it's worth, you see the button here is Phil Ivey. That's pretty cool. They're playing a three-handed game, just like a few bosses, one of them being Ivy.
Sure.
This is at the point in time, I believe, where Ivy was starting to get crushed. Anyway, still playing high stakes online. So Kanu 7, who's a British reg. I don't know if you know him.
I don't. Oh, actually, yeah, I do. I'm sorry.
His name's Alex Miller. Yeah. Anyway, so he's like a kind of old school high stakes dude. OTB's more of an up and comer. He's considered one of the best. Definitely at this time. But now Linus is probably considered better than him, but he'd still be up there in 6 max anyway. He defends BB. So look, maybe I'll see what you think. Or do you want to just see the hand? Or it's kind of an interesting spot.
Whatever you want. I'll go through it whichever way you prefer.
All right. So basically, like if you want, you could. What would you check here as Kanu 7? Like he goes for a check on this board, assuming that a third pot bet is used, which is pretty standard on this board. You'd have like an 80% bet frequency, roughly, something like that. So what kind of hands do you imagine that he would be checking? 300 BB effective.
I imagine from the value side would be looking at something like top set of kings, maybe some of his weaker king X with backdoors, so like some like king 7 of clubs and worse, king 7 of spades and worse. And then from a give up perspective, oh man, it would have to be like, I guess some of your lowest EV hands that just have no real path to continue. So like maybe 5-6 of hearts. I imagine he's not opening too many like offsuit connectors. But yeah, I would imagine like 5-6 of hearts, 6-7 of hearts. Those types of hands are probably just going to check with the intention of giving up. Maybe even like some middling pairs, deuces, 4s, 5s.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, he goes for the check. 75% pot from the Baron. Obviously, he could bet a lot of different hands here. We could go into that if you think it's more just interesting from Kanu's perspective because he's the one who's going to sort of have a decision to make here. So he goes for the check call.
Okay.
So maybe some of those weaker kings you were talking about. Well, really, like he could continue this with a bunch of different pairs. Maybe some ace highs with backdoors that he doesn't c-bet. But either way, it's kind of odd to have not c-bet and then to take this line. Just it's a little bit like less common.
It should be leaning strong from an exploitative sense, I would imagine. Right?
Strong, but like never actually strong. Would you say?
Yeah, like strong enough where I imagine anyway. At least if I'm in Kanu's seat, I understand OTB is really good and is going to lean towards the side of aggression. So the second I lean passive, he's probably going to over-aggress to some degree, which means that I can expect him to maybe slightly over-bluff. And if I can expect that to be the case, then I'm probably just going to start to take hands that perform really well through bluff-catching portion of the tree, which is going to be like a lot of King X.
Yeah, that's for me, man. Me personally, I'm trying to play super balanced, so that's like real interesting to hear when someone says something like that, because it's like as soon as you've done that, you know, are you going to keep doing that? Because your boy might just change his game and then you're fucked. That's the risk of exploiting at any point. Is they notice and they're like, what the hell? But if they're just balanced, you're also in trouble. So it's an interesting thought.
So it's got to be one of those things where it's like in this particular spot, this one time, he's choosing to go this path, and then you know from that point forward. How he moves forward with it is kind of up to him.
Yeah. So anyway, we see a offsuit. Sorry, a 6 bringing 2 clubs on the turn. We get a check and like a 150% pot bet, followed by a
Okay.
call. So,
Okay.
I mean, just
Yeah,
to give you
I
some
imagine.
perspective on the spot of what's about to happen, because what's about to happen is like this is standard so far, basically.
Yeah, I imagine Kanu's range is pretty inelastic here. And that's kind of what I'm getting at on the flop is why I think he's probably leaning towards an exploit is uh, that range once it check calls should you're repping a capped range, right? So like you're now allowing OTB to basically just go off, and in order for that to happen where you can profit, you're gonna have enough. You're gonna need to have enough call downs facing these big overbets.
Yeah. Obviously for the turn, it's not really that much of a problem. You have a lot of hands that
Right.
have a pair and a club. You have a lot of
Yeah,
hands that
yeah.
are just like top pair, never need to fold type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, once this river rolls, you're not really working with much 4-5 in your range as Kanu, right? You'd have to have check called the
Right.
flop. Whereas our boy
Yeah.
OTB, I mean, he's probably got a decent amount of it. And like
Certainly could have it.
he could have a bit. You're actually supposed to bet half the time with every 4-5 combo on the flop. Anyway,
That makes sense. Yeah.
like if he's all in, like what do you call with? But what if he? I mean, like whatever. He is all in. So what do you call with? It's 5x pot.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like
This is your whole roll, by the way, Mr. Berkey, on the table. You bought in for your last 25k. This guy's all in.
I mean, this is what it is. You know, it's like
you took
live
this
by the
line.
sword, you die by the sword. I mean, obviously sets plus are pretty well.
But like, could you ever really have a set? Check call. It's kind of like
it's not the most probable line.
Sixes for what it's worth. You could certainly have.
Sure, sixes would make a lot of sense.
Sixes would also be a bit of a turn raise, though. You imagine, like you probably never fold on the flop.
Right.
Either way, regardless of if you bet or not. But
yeah, I guess
you may raise the turn pretty frequently with sixes, especially since your opponent can't really have nines and kings since they 3-bet 100% pre.
Yeah, I would just expect OTB to continue betting the river at a relatively high frequency, particularly whenever we have hands that like block the strongest portions of the board. So when we have King X, when we have like a set of sixes, things of that nature, I would expect that he's going to be able to find a slightly higher betting frequency on the river, which would lean me probably towards calling, like whatever the mix is there. I would probably, in this particular instance, say I have enough information to lean towards the side of remaining passive. With that said, what are you supposed to call a 5x pot shove with on the river? I mean, I imagine the equity threshold is pretty high. I assume like maybe.
But
King
you're
9
you're Matt Berkey though, bro. You've got King Jack offsuit. Do you call this fucking guy? You knew he was gonna bluff you.
Honestly, I just wouldn't take this line with King Jack off against an elite player.
You said earlier that you may because you expect him to be overly aggressive if you show passiveness. So there's a chance that maybe you take this line with King Jack.
Right.
For what it's worth, Kano is gonna have King Jack. So you're Kano, you've got the King Jack.
Yeah, I mean, going back to my flop read of if I think he's going to over-aggress when I show weakness, then, I mean, I don't think my kicker with my king is going to matter all that much. So really, like, it's kind of just following the incentives of OTB. Like, how many good hands does he have in this particular instance that wants to be ripping for 5x pot versus how many bluffs is he possibly going to have here? I would say the bluffs are probably going to outweigh the value. But you're right that he has probably all combos of 4-5, and that becomes very problematic. That said, I don't know.
Fuck him, call.
I might just YOLO call. You know, I don't think I don't really think we're doing anybody a service trying to split the hairs between like King 10, King Jack, with a club, without a club, that type of stuff. You're just seeing such a low frequency play here. That it's like, okay, he's making a massive overbet in a spot where he's probably imbalanced towards bluffs, but we're just not going to have enough equity in our range to be calling here really ever. So like, what do? You know, you're just in this spot one time.
Yeah, man, I feel you. And like, especially if you're taking a shot against a player who is perceived to be better, I and everybody else, they always feel this fucker's trying to run you over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like, it's
that's
crazy how when you take a shot, you actually become a sputard, basically, because you're so worried about about being a bitch and like folding to a guy, or like not getting a hand in, or not 4-bet bluffing enough, or whatever it might be, that you actually end up just like playing bad. And so,
well, like the crazy thing is whenever you deviate in a way that you don't think he's ever going to expect. So, like, say you just check aces here this one time, and he leads with 75% pot. You're like, oh, that's a very large bet for this size or for this board. Wasn't quite expecting that. I'm just going to call and see if he follows through. And then all of a sudden you're facing overbet 5x pot shove. And it's just like, how did I get here? How do I have like one of the strongest hands in my range, and now I don't even think I can call with it?
yeah. But yeah, so the legend goes, you know what an RNG is, right? You guys use
Yeah.
you guys use like chip positioning for live. It's kind of crazy.
We have all kinds. I mean, the easiest thing to do is use like a non-digital watch, an analog watch. But
See, my mate tried that, and I have a feeling like my subconscious will just know how many seconds it is, especially if you check it like every street. Yeah, and then you're like gonna rig it for like, do I want to shove here? Just like wait an extra second. So
yeah,
I
feel the same thing with the chips. Like people do.
There's an item called a
D20.
D20. It's a Magic the Gathering dice. It's 20-sided dice. Like you can just like have that in your hand. That's what I would do. Have it in your hand and just like peek at it. Have it in your hand and peek at it. And that's
sense.
like split everything into 5%, which is all you're really gonna do as a human anyway. So
right.
But yeah, I mean, we fucking call. Motherfucker got it. Motherfucker got it.
4-5.
Yeah, we just gave him 2.8 buy-ins on the river. Phil Ivey just watching there like, fuck, man, what's going on these days?
You just got to pay off the 4-5 sometimes. You know, if you have it, you have it.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I ran a sim on this yesterday just in case it was like interesting to talk about. But basically, the thing that I thought was weird is like, you'd imagine that King 5 and King 4 become like pretty good calls. But the thing that's interesting is King 5 like calls fuck all, because when a guy's shoving for way more than pot, like if say you shove for pot, you should have 2 value for 1 bluff. But if you're shoving for 5x pot, it becomes a lot closer to being able to be having almost equal, like slightly more value than bluffs, but a much closer ratio. Having King 5 is actually bad because you block like a ton of Red Baron's bluffs are like 7-5 and 8-5 and shit like that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Because you still, when you're bluffing, you want to block your opponent's potential cooldowns.
Yeah.
So it's not that he could have 4-5, it's that he could have King 5 and call. Or, you know what I mean? So like Ace 4 might be a good bluff for the Baron because he blocks his opponent having King 4. And so King 4 is actually an auto call, and King 5 is a muck. Because you don't want to have the 5. So yeah, I would certainly have just been like, oh, King 5, King 4, probably always call. Definitely fold King Jack. But yeah, the other thing that's weird is that he's supposed to shove every combo of 3s for 5x pot, which is pretty savage. Yeah.
See, so that was the argument that I was going to make from a psychological standpoint. I think that he arrives at the 5x pot shove because his bluff became value. So he had a bluff line set up that he was going to take with 4-5 high, no matter what. Or not no matter what, but like particularly once the 6 hits on the turn. He recognizes this is going to be a part of his bluffing tree at a pretty high frequency. And then he hits gin on the river. And it's not even like a dirty gin. It's not like it's the 7 or the 7 of clubs, anything like that. It's a Badoogie deuce. So he kind of falls in this realm where it's just like, oh, well, I was going to go off with this hand, and now I'm here, and I unblock all of the potential calls that my opponent could have. So I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to 5x pot here. Like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have like 9s or 3s or King 9 or these other value hands that could potentially go really big on this river because it's difficult for Keanu to have enough or to have better, they don't really think that way, right? Because they're just trying to eke out value street by street by street. So when you're on the value side of the lens, you're trying to like range assess what your opposition is like check calling with that you can extract the most from. And I know that that's not how it breaks down at equilibrium, and that's not how I guess strategies are implemented whenever we're implementing mixes and things along those lines. But we're still human at the core. There's still a part of us that like shows a certain level of bias towards a hand that started out as the nuts and ended as the nuts, compared to one that started out as 5 high and got there through the back door.
Yeah, man. I think I agree in a sense that there's no way I reckon he would have shoved threes. I just don't think he would have done it. But maybe he overbets. Like he understands like his opponent can't possibly have the nuts. But I don't know if he rips the threes, because he'd be thinking like, man, what if this guy just folding massive and like only calls sixes? You know, like it's
that's kind of the point that I'm making, right? Like we have to assume that he hasn't run this sim before. You know what I mean? Like it seems pretty improbable.
Yeah. For what it's worth, he's like the best player in the world at this point. But
No, I get all that, but it's like there's a finite amount of time and energy that you can put into running sims,
for sure.
and to figure out like what you can 5x pot shove on this type of run out when checked to by an aggressor, that seems like a pretty low priority situation for him to have run.
Yeah.
So my guess is like he's kind of extrapolating street by street with the knowledge that he has of, you know, the other sims that he's run in comparable spots where maybe SPR was a little bit lower and things of that nature. So it's just a lot less likely that he arrives at the same decision with any other combination of hands.
Yeah, I think like he could honestly have been like massively over bluffing the spot though.
Yeah,
like he had the nuts, but I wouldn't be
that.
surprised if OTB was just going to rip like a fuckload of hands, like maybe every misdraw.
Right.
So
or maybe everything that at least contains like a 4 or a 5 in it.
Yeah, like 7-5 for what it's worth is taking this line 100% of the time, and it also bets the flop a similar amount to 4-5.
Right, makes total sense.
But yeah, just definitely one of the sickest hands online that I can recall. So I just thought I'd bring that up. I don't know if you'd seen it. It's just like a cool hand. It's sort of like this hand, like kind of got me into Hold'em almost.
Really?
Well, just think about it, man. Like, because I was playing Plo at this point. There is no fucking like. Sometimes you rep a straight flush in Plo and you think you're a boss. You know what I mean? Like that's about it. Maybe you turn like trips into a bluff. Like that you bet the river with a full house, like Queen 8, but it's like a King Queen 8-8 board. They raise you. They probably have KK. You're like, I'm all in for pot. You know? Because like they're like, what the fuck? He knows I have kings. What the fuck? And they fold. You know? Like so you can do some kind of interesting shit, but it's only ever for pot. Whereas in this game, this is really the greatest game. So Plo's the great game. This is the greatest game. You have the backdoor hand. There's no fucking way they can have it. It's not just this spot. There's a ton of spots that come up where like the aggressor, like the check caller can never have like shit card high backdoor draw. It's almost always backdoor straights this applies to. Though. Obviously backdoor flushes. There's a lot of easy combos to have, like pair plus that, just ace higher that, etc. But yeah, this kind of spot actually comes up quite a bit in the game. I've certainly taken
like the backdoor trip draw. That's a strong one.
That was the Doug Polk against you. Is that what you're kind of loosely thinking of? He like raised the flop with like a backdoor straight
maybe
and flush draw.
Subconsciously.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that hand. The sick thing is, I was going to introduce you like this, bro. I was going to be like, Matt Berkey, high stakes cash game player, a guy you probably want to think twice about before you shove the river as a bluff. You know,
that's a fair way to announce me.
When he shoved that river, I was like, oh man, I think Berkey's going to call. It's so sick because like he literally needed to hit, because he was going to bluff that combo every single time. Like that.
Well, that's
the 9
the worst
didn't roll.
part is that he didn't shove river. He bet like 70% pot, and I was expecting a river shove. So like when he didn't shove river, I was just like, fuck, how did I just get unlucky? Like how does he have a 9 in this spot? It has to be like ace 9 that he just like went off with somehow. And I even said it out loud, like when I go, man, I was really expecting a shove here, which he would have. If it was just the deuce of spades, he would have just been all in, and I would have snapped, and I would have been the hero. Yeah. But instead,
you were still the hero, man. You got bad beat, bro. we know, man. You got bad beat.
Yeah, that one was bad. I mean, honestly, like from a technical standpoint, the hand itself was just like compared to what we know now, was pretty laughable. But
he didn't block the trips, right? He like. The 7 was the suit that he had. Is that correct?
No.
So he did block the trips.
He blocked the trips. I mean,
I like it as a bluff.
Yeah.
I think it's all right.
His plays, it's a low frequency play, but the whole thing is that like gets overlooked. Is I bet 3/4 pot on the flop.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, man, that's your fault. All right.
No,
that's not his fault.
that's what I'm getting at. Is that like it's already starting from a standpoint of a non-equilibrium decision.
Yeah, it's sick because it's like, you bet that size because you figured you could get value out of him, like decent value with a hand that's pretty strong. And he's like man, this fucking guy's betting top pair against me for that sizing. Fuck this guy, I'm gonna raise, you know? And
No,
then
he
you're
thought
like,
the opposite. He thought
Okay.
that I would see like king queen high there for 75%.
well, you might have,
Uh,
but the point is, you used a large
maybe.
sizing without having like a super strong hand, like a strong hand, but you know,
Yeah.
one that a bluff could have worked against, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
Definitely an interesting hand, though, for sure. I actually had another hand, a live hand of yours, and because I was thinking one of the interesting things, like obviously if you played some lives, play some online, you know, they're different worlds. Oh, that's a different thing. Hold on, let me find this hand of you. Oh yeah, so here we go, man. You bomb pot Deweys. Okay, bomb pot
I got a
Deweys.
lot of sets here. Yeah.
Do you remember this hand?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so for those who don't know, I'll skip through. I won't like play the action out because it's, you know, kind of boring for us to listen to the chatter and whatnot. But basically, if you don't know what a bomb pot is, everybody puts in X amount of money pre-flop. Usually, like what, 5 blinds, 2 blinds,
Yeah,
5
roughly.
blinds, 5 blinds.
5 blinds,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yep.
5 blinds in the pot. So and then it's however many people are at the table handed. So I think it's 7-handed here or 8-handed maybe.
I think we were 8 at the time.
All right, so it comes 10-9 deuce. So everybody's range is uncapped. You've got the button right, or at least cutoff.
I do, yeah.
All right, so Matt's on.
Sorry, I guess I'm in the hijack from what this says.
Okay, Matt's like got some. He ends up being in position in his hand. Basically, they all check to him. He bets about third pot, with deuces here. I guess like just to break that down briefly, you probably want to bet some amount of top pair type of thing just to like be able to win the money in the middle. So you probably have to use a smaller bet size. You don't want to be just like polarized and then having to check back top pair with like 7 opponents.
Yeah, I mean
So-
it's one of those things when you bet into a field of 8 or 9 people. Any bet you make is polarizing by nature.
Yeah, but you still have quite a
you-
lot of fold equity against the next few players to act because they can't like call you light
Right.
and expect not to be like check raised by strong hands behind them or draws or
Right,
you know,
right.
whatever. So it's not like
Right.
say you bet and I'm next to act and I've got 10-8. I'm not going to fucking call you. You know, there's 6
Right,
people
exactly.
behind me. I got like a piece of shit on toast. So
yeah, that's fair.
so it's interesting. Anyway, third pot, I like the sizing. Jungle goes for the peel out of position. 8 of clubs queen. Stinky. Like real
Yeah, I
bad
thought that was a
IMO.
little. I wasn't.
I'd say it's insulting. He's sort of insulted you with this peel. But maybe it's kind of like I want to give a little, get a little action-wise, you know? He doesn't want to be just knitting it up against the Berkey.
No, I don't think it was that at all. But bomb pots were really, really new back then, and I remember him and Ryan Fee end up playing a hand later on in this same session
Okay.
where they play like a ridiculously large pot, like something like.
Let's
man, I don't
watch
know.
that after this one. Let's watch that after this
Okay.
one. I'll find
Yeah,
that
it might have
and
been like 500 or 600 big blind pot where they both had like top pair on a one-liner.
shit. Okay, that sounds good.
It was wild.
Yeah, that sounds sick. Alright, so anyway, Jungle goes for this peel. I don't really think it's particularly good, but whatever. He does. The other dude makes the call, pretty standard. I don't think you'd want to raise without a club, like Jack 8 offsuit without a club very often, so it's probably 100% flatting. The turn is an 8. They both could donk here because ranges are very weird. Berkey
Right.
could obviously be betting with Queen Jack, but they both happen to block it. So if they're going to have donks, which you're probably supposed to in a bomb pot, but whatever. Let's not think about it. They take a pretty standard line of check, check. Over to Matt here. Now you make a kind of tough but like fair decision to like cap yourself by checking back. It's possible that you
Yeah.
could check back like 6, 7 if you bet the flop, but I imagine would only be with clubs. Or hearts, maybe hearts, but either way, it's pretty tough betting into 7 players with a hand like that. I wouldn't do it personally, but would you say it's fair that you never had Jack 7 and Queen Jack, or you think you have some amount of that checking back the turn?
Not when I check back, no. I could potentially have some Jack 7 or maybe... I think Jack 7 would be like the best hand that I would consider checking back.
Yeah, for what it's worth, like against a couple of decent regs, in this kind of spot, I actually kind of like it. The problem is, like, it's not heads up. If it was heads up against one reg, I kind of like having some traps, like because if they perceive you as captain, want to rip into you, like you crush them. Like if they overdo it even slightly, they're just dead. And like still,
Heads up, I would be much more on that line of thinking. But
sure.
even still, like that was kind of the way I was thinking with deuces too. Was that there are a lot of bad rivers where controlling this pot is important, but if a brick comes off, I'm perceived so capped that one of these guys could potentially just go for it with like 10x that they want to now turn into a bluff, or 9x that they want to turn into a bluff.
Yeah, it's interesting to say you did bet the turn. Like obviously Queen Jack could raise you, and that could be a little bit annoying. But you do protect against like the river being a Jack 7 Queen Club 6. And also now you're not capped. So I feel like maybe deuces is okay to bet on the turn, but at the same time,
That's fair.
I don't know. I don't really fucking know. I don't know. I think your line decision is interesting. And without it, we wouldn't have this cool pot, so that's awesome.
That's true.
But yeah, so a check on the turn and a complete brick. The Brick City brick. Now, I gotta say here, as Jungleman, I think you gotta be bluffing this fucking river. He's just gotta be piling in on the river. This is such a soft-ass play. But maybe it's because he's scared of the Berkinator making the snap, you know?
I think it was more that he was 3 or 4 Long Islands deep at this point.
So that's why he called the flop.
Yeah,
Can't
I think
handle his
Jungle might get a
alcohol.
little more conservative whenever he's drunk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he tanks for a long time on the river. You can tell he kind of wants to go for it and then just, like, gives up.
But then he, like, physically announces that he's giving up the pot, right? Like, he does like, hey, you guys fucking win the pot then. I was going to bluff you, I swear, but I don't. Thoughts on Jungleman, for what it's worth? Yeah, nah.
I
him.
love him as a human, man. He's one of the funniest characters I've ever played poker with.
Okay.
He's a good dude.
Okay. I've never met him, but I know that my mate destroyed him in a like a 5K heads up sit and go when he was like a 200 400 player at this point, Jungleman, and he Jungle Bitch rips his cards up and throws them like at the dealer. So it's like whatever, man. Like, look, you know, maybe he's kind of interesting, but like he's a complete child as far as I know.
He definitely has some of those tendencies and issues, I guess. He got kicked out of MGM at one point, I think, for like throwing a glass against Bobby's room wall.
I just can't respect someone like that. But look, maybe he's funny to be around. Who knows? But he wouldn't be my mate. In any case, he bitches out on the river like a bitch, which is understandable. And then our boy Jason has a kind of similar spot. But I like Jungle's, like, say Jungle wants to 2x the river as a bluff. Pretty good. Like, you block turn 2 pair. You're pretty capped. He blocks Queen Jack, so, like, the dude behind him is not going to have it that much. It's pretty strong for him to bet into 2 people who could both, or, like, you know that he's betting into this other dude. I don't know the guy's name. But Jason, yeah. It says it on the fucking screen. Anyway, you would know that he bet that massive sizing into that dude, and that dude could have the Queen Jack. So, like, you might fold deuces. I don't know if you would have if Jungle 2x the river or some shit like that. Okay, yeah, I'm just saying. Look, your image is in it's safe. Okay, no one's gonna bluff you, man. All right, don't worry. But I'm just saying, like, from my perspective, if I was you, I would certainly have thought that Jungle's line would be stronger if he bets into this dude who hasn't acted yet and me with my deuces. Then if he checks and then this dude, Jason 2x's the river, I'd be like, I call against this dude, pretty easy call. Even though his hand's like not a bad bluff for that type of line, just the fact that he's got the info that Jungle's more likely to be weak because he checked river makes it easier for him to be bluffing.
And the way that Jungle checked, right? Like the fact that we know that he's just checked out, I think that in and of itself makes it more likely that Jason's going to be bluffing. And also, like, the fact that Jungle considered bluffing, it's like, okay, well, he has one relevant card as well.
That's a fair live point. Yeah, Jungle's sort of, like, that's why online, like, they don't want people chatting, like, during a hand. They ban it when someone's all in, because they don't want information being revealed, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that is definitely a factor that could contribute in this hand. But look, the way I saw this hand, so for those who don't know what's going to happen, is this dude, Jason, checks the river. Berkey makes a 2/3 pot value bet, I believe.
I think so. I think 5 or 6K.
And this dude's going to rip for like at least 2x pot, but it's about 8x the bet, if I recall. So he's going to rip it in for 8x the bet. You can see Berkey is just like, this is a cool spot, like got a little grin on the face. But I got to say, man, I felt like the reason, like, you were probably going to call either way, but was it a factor that this dude was just like giving away, like, weak, like he was nervous as fuck? Because I felt like this dude sort of lost it a little bit.
So I was going to just snap. Like, to me, this is what I was hoping would happen, kind of thing.
Okay. I wouldn't feel that good if someone did that to me, but I might call them.
I mean, it just seemed like a pretty good opportunity. Like, it'd be weird to check Queen Jack or 6-7 in this spot when there's nothing signifying that I'm going to bet for sure. So, like, to me, it was like a very clear call. Let's just put it that way. But
once you're capped.
Yeah. But we were only like 2 hours into the session that was supposed to be 8 hours long, and I'm going to be playing with this guy for a long time. And I know Jason's very good.
Do you know his screen name? Is he like a proper reg? Because I felt like he was like a proper online reg.
At the time, man, I can't remember what his screen name was, but at the time he had just started a thread on 2+2 that I just
Okay.
happened to stumble upon, where he was trying to scale to high stakes. So I think he was playing like um, maybe 1K NL at the time, and he was trying to make a 500,000 over X amount of months or whatever. And
Okay.
he was kind of blogging his journey along the way. But he's also Danmer's friend, so I knew that like he was decent, and that was really all I knew. So for me, a big reason why I gravitate towards live is because I feel much more confident and strong in the psychological elements of the game. And he's coming strictly from playing behind a computer, so I know this is going to impact him in some sort of capacity. And the second he rips, I'm just looking at him, and man,
He didn't even
it
touch
was
the
just like,
chips either. Just like fuck, you know.
yeah, there was just like so much going on. Like if you play the clip the whole way through, you get to see a lot. Like his breathing patterns are very shallow and very nervous. He's doing certain things to kind of like try to pacify himself. And I just wanted to make sure because I know I'm calling anyway, so I wanted to gather as much information as I could. Where if when I call he has the nuts, now I know that that's what he looks like when he has the nuts. And if I call and he's stone bluffing, then it's like okay, well now I have a pretty good read on him moving forward, or at least a good calibration for what he's going to look like when he's bluffing.
That's fair. To be honest, I never even think about that kind of shit when I play live. I just sort of play. It's like you can't really lose. But I guess you're playing in a pretty tough lineup, so it's good to have those kind of things up your sleeve.
Yeah, and also it's just the spots are so anecdotal in nature, right? You might only get it like really 4 or 5 incredibly high EV spots in a session, and being wrong, or making the incorrect decision, not according to theory, but according to the results. Let's say, if there's more information available that could lean you towards making the correct decision according to results, it just seems like you're remiss to not take in as much as you possibly can. Now, don't get me wrong. If I thought that I was like pretty bad at this, then I shouldn't spend any time on it because it's just going to kind of like fuck up my system as far as like how I make decisions. I should just lean on the theory and do what it dictates. But with 17 years in the live realm, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on like where people fail in the psychological element of things.
You ever 5-bet shoved on someone with 5 deuce off?
I
Had the
don't
read?
think so.
You know that Ivy hand or nah?
Oh yeah, the Brad Booth Ivy hand.
Nah, man. Lex Veldhouse cold 4-bets Ivy.
I do.
Ivy has
Man.
5 deuce off and it's just like takes a look at this guy. He's like, nah, all in. Dude's like snap
I
fold.
do.
Oh man, that was such a good spot, bro. It's like nah, bro. He had 5 deuce off. He shoved on you, bro. That's a good spot. Come on, man.
That's right. Lex had like King Jack, right?
Suited. Yeah.
Yeah. Lex used to come to Vegas a lot and play live. I played a lot of deep stacked no limit with Lex. He was a madman, like pre Black Friday.
Yeah. He's an interesting player. He used to play a lot of cash. On stars,
Yeah.
he was grinding elite at the same time. I think he got sponsored pretty early, from what I recall. I think he had that PokerStars tag on him when I was playing with him.
Yeah, that would make sense. He used
Long
to come
time
and play,
break
like,
even player though. Like
Yeah.
definitely a spewer.
He was a cannon live. I mean, like he was the typical early adopter to aggression wins, and we'd be playing like 5-10, 10-20 uncapped, sitting 10-20k deep, and he was just the kind of guy who in 2009 2010 had the good sense to start putting in massive overbets on turns and rivers against players who were just way too uncomfortable with that type of risk.
I'm trying to find that Jungleman and Fee's hand.
Man, it's
you said it was
wild.
Ryan Fee, right?
Yeah, it was the same session. It was like Ace 10 versus Ace 9 on some absurd board where Jungle like block bet the river and Fee raised for value, or so he claimed. And then Jungle called worse, and it made him just
how
like
could
look
this
like a
not
genius.
be? How could this not be on the YouTubes? That sounds like
it
a
has
crazy hand.
Yeah, it has.
And you sure it was Jungleman and Ryan Fee?
100%, yeah.
It was live at the bike, right?
Yeah. It would be funny if this was like one of the hands that they never clipped out.
I've never seen it, and I do watch like a lot of these things. Oh, dude, you got fucking... Oh, you flop top set, though. What's this? Fuck, do you just destroy Garrett, do you? For this stack? Oh no, this is some sick board where it's like top set versus top set, right?
He turns an ace, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Decimates me.
That's not good. Also, a quick question for you, man.
Yeah.
What's up with the choice to shave your hair? Like a lot of people who shave, they're going bald, but you seem like you got your hair. What's up?
I have shitty hair, man. I don't know how else to describe it.
Fair enough. I was just wondering.
It's nappy. It doesn't look all that great. I wear a hat all the time anyway. It's so low maintenance to just buzz it down.
Do you ever have long hair?
No.
Okay.
Like what you see in 2016 is about as long as it's ever gotten.
Yeah. I used to have dreads, man, and like before I had dreads, my hair was kind of similar to this actually, and then I like finally shaved my dreads off, and my hair just like naturally like upright after that point.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any relation, but if you want to grow dreads for 5 years, it might help.
Oh my god, I would look so ridiculous. No, man, I've always had like the athletic look. I played ball until I was 32, so it was definitely always just like whatever's lowest maintenance. Summertime, it was easy to shave, and I just kind of stuck with it.
Do you ever play basketball, by the way?
Not well.
Oh damn! I was gonna say we should play some 2v2 with my mate if we come over sometime.
I would love to get back into it. I played a lot of like pickup throughout my young adulthood, I guess. But yeah, I never played organized. I'm only 6 foot tall, so like they just don't have a spot for me.
Come on, man, just get your 3-point shooting up. Easy game. Yeah, I'm a terrible shooter. I started playing pretty late in my life, but I really like playing basketball.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I like playing with people who are like not infinitely better than me. Like, I don't mind playing with people who are better than me. That's totally reasonable. It's the people who are just like miles ahead of me that it becomes very difficult. So I'm just banging around on the boards, trying to find my next outlet pass and get back, play some
Getting stripped by like some fast little dude. That's what happens to me.
Like, I'm a 2-3 dribble guy max going to the hole. Like, my perimeter is like 6 feet and in.
Yeah, I wish I could shoot, man, because dudes never guard my shot. They're like, all right, man. Because I look so I'm like a bit of a fucking balloon. I'm like 117 kilos. I'm not much taller than you, but I'm just I'm a bit of a tank at the moment. People just think I'm going to run straight down, so they give me a lot of space. If I could shoot, man, I'd be in the profits.
No,
but that shit's like all rim, It's no good.
I can relate all too well.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to make a bet that I'd be able to dunk within the next year, but then I hurt my fucking back, and now I don't think it's the wisest decision for me to pursue.
Lose the bet.
Yeah,
not worth getting injured, man.
I didn't make it, but
yeah. I got a dunk bet with my mate. Actually, he's like about 6 foot. He's in much better shape than me. So he if he wanted to win this, he could win it. But if I win, he has to watch all of Dragon Ball Super. I don't know if you watched Dragon Ball as a kid.
I don't. I don't.
You don't have time for that.
I mean, it's just not anything I would ever be into.
That's crazy, man. I grew up on that shit. I mean, I was high on delusions and weed all through my teenage years. So for me, the idea of flying around the world and firing energy blasts and protecting the planet, that was about the only reason to be alive, really.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
I moved to China, bro, to fucking learn martial arts. That's where my head was at. I did that. It was only for 6 months, but it was an interesting experience. Also, when I was a teenager,
what discipline did you take up?
So basically we went to a school where they just have teachers of a variety. It's like it caters to foreigners. So I was mainly doing their version of kickboxing, which is called Sanda. But they also teach you like whatever you want to learn, like a sword form or like shit with poles, just all kinds of random shit. Some people had lived there for like 11 years and stuff. Like dude was writing a book. It's kind of like just another world, honestly.
That sounds really out there. I mean, honestly, it's like that's pretty cool to be that travel.
I was still just getting like trashed like every weekend though. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I wasn't really like changing my life as much as I should have, or giving it the full experience. It's just because there was a lot of young foreigners there too, like just dudes. It wasn't like a party town. We were like in rural China. There was a couple of chicks and they got passed around a bit, but I got a piece. Don't worry, man. It was good. How much do you squat? Says my boy Cole S.
When I was in college, I was squatting. And not that this is relevant since it was a very long time ago. But I was probably squatting somewhere in the neighborhood of like 425.
200 kilos, roughly 190 or something.
Yeah.
It's big.
Since then, I'm doing so for the last like 8 years or so. I've pretty much done extensively unilateral work,
What's
trying
that
to
mean?
basically, um, so basically like single leg, single arm stuff
Oh,
to
okay.
try to train out all the asymmetry in our body. I still do like a fair amount of like regular squats, but or bilateral squats, I guess. But I choose front squats over back squats, so I
I
can't go
can't
nearly
do it,
as
man. I
heavy.
don't know what the fuck I'm doing with that.
They're hard, man. They take a lot of technique, a lot of
Can't even
core.
bend my
It's
fucking arms back like that.
Yeah, you got to get the thumbs underneath, the elbows up. It's
It's
tough.
like that hook grip shit, man. Like, I don't even know how to do that. I was gonna break my thumb if I ever fucking try that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
that I've messed around with it a little bit. It's not very comfortable.
Horrible, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought some wrist wraps the other day. I'm like such a pussy bencher. Like, I finally benched 80 recently. 80 kilos. I don't know what
Yeah.
that is. It's
Yeah.
like not much though. Um,
I think it's like 2.2 conversion
it's like
or divide.
it's like 1.5 plates a side. I guess
Yeah.
that's kind of a universal rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know, man. I'm trying to take it more seriously. Might get my bench game up, but other than that, I've been so in and out with the gym, like shoulder injuries, like every time, just like can never take it properly. But I'm just trying to like never do that again. Keep my shoulders safe. Like do isolation exercises for shoulders. I don't know. Don't really know what I'm doing, man. Just trying to not get injured though.
Get a trainer, man. It's well worth the expense. I can't say that enough. I've been working with a functional movement trainer for. I tore my ACL in 2013, I think. And I've been working with him ever since. And honestly, like it almost makes the injury worthwhile. He's just been like such a massive addition where it kind of allows me to train a lot harder and smarter as I get older.
Yeah, man. How do you feel about becoming old? Like, do you still check out like a 25-year-old, or you think like, ah, fuck, I can't even look at this bitch anymore?
No. 25 is definitely fair game.
Are they looking at you? They're like, who's this fucking old dude? Or is it
I
still
tend
good?
to date younger. I definitely tend to date younger. That's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. Age doesn't really. I try not to think about it. I guess it is weird being 38. I don't think of myself as 38. That seems very adult. I see other people who are like. A lot of times they're younger than me, and I'll be like, "What are you like, 48?" And they're like, "I'm 34." It's like you aged horribly.
At least you can
I'm
say
sorry
that to a
about you.
guy, man. You can't ever fucking say that to a girl. Jesus.
No, of course. But yeah, it's strange. It's weird how fast time goes, man. I mean, 17 years I've been playing poker. It seems like I just started. It's like with how fast the game is moving and the different directions that it's taking. Even it's like I've been playing high stakes for 6 years, and I mean, I can still remember to a T my first time walking through the Ivy Room doors. It's like it just seems like it happened yesterday. It's so weird, how fast these sessions start to run together and how quickly you forget that, like, you know, there's a finite amount of time that you're going to spend playing poker.
For sure, man. Yeah. Like for me, I guess I remember feelings, like how I felt about a thing, more than I remember
Yeah,
anything. I don't know if
yeah, I
that's
think that's
because my
fair.
memory is just trash, but that's sort of how it goes with me. I don't remember examples. I just remember what I ended up thinking of a spot, and I kind of
Yeah,
trust my former self. But then sometimes, your former self is trash. Like, what do you know? So, yeah,
yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Details become very difficult to parse as more and more time passes. Like there are a lot of things that at some point in my life I could remember very vividly, and now I kind of think back on it and in a reflective way, and all I can remember is like how I felt about
um, where should we go next topic wise, man? Just having to think. You got me on something there for a second. Oh yeah, bro. I had one of my viewers actually recommended this question. So, what's up with the live politics of getting in a game?
it.
Any
I
spots
mean,
come up? You've
it's
been denied here. People love you over there. Like, are you getting other people out of games in and out? Like, what's the deal really? Like, say I'm just like a decent reg. I'm like some
yeah,
guy. I want to
yeah.
play. Can I gamble with you guys or nah? You know?
I mean, it's super hard. These games are very protected. I'm kind of lucky that I'm one of the guys who just kind of gets it, I guess. And I'm not trying to say that as a pat on the back. It's just I've never been the type of person to think in terms of like black and white EV, right? So I've always been the type to kind of give action. I've always been the type to just accept losses and lose gracefully and things of that nature. And that's very much coveted when it comes to a lot of these private games. And I'm not even saying that as advice to other people. Like,
Just go
you
and be
should
a
think this
station.
way. Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is. It's like, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that a lot of these games are moving private. I think it becomes really bad whenever we start looking at the middle stakes, like 25, 50 and below. Um, I'm probably a bigger advocate of keeping those games as public as humanly possible than I am anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard. It's just like any other marketplace where there is a big collection of money and EV to be gained. People privatize, and they make it very difficult for somebody who's busting their ass that may have a skill edge to get a hold of the same amount of money as somebody who just has a network advantage.
So, any advice for like a kind of up and comer like me, getting a small little dose of fame? Like,
Definitely
if
keep
I
the
play
mustache.
keep the moustache. All right, man, I like that.
Definitely,
I could do that.
definitely keep
Yeah.
the mustache. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I think you have some advantages working for you. You're personable. You are blunt. You are Australian. I think all of these things
Australian's
fare
good,
in
is
your
it?
favor.
Because you got
Yeah,
Aussie Matt.
yeah,
They're like, oh, Aussie Matt. You like him? It's like, yeah, I know
right,
that guy. I know that guy.
right. Matt will never get kicked out of any game ever.
Yeah.
Attenborough too. He's a good action guy. Like he seems to get it. He gives action. He whatever. I mean, basically, if you can show up, you can ante up every single day. You're respectful. You're kind, and you're not like running sims through your head in every single spot. You're not openly randomizing. You're not doing these things that
Oh
make it
man,
very
I want to
apparent.
openly randomize it. That's no good, is it?
I mean, it's not great. It's not a good look. You don't want to remind people that they're not as studied as you.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I was never. It always tilted me up when some dude in a hoodie or whatever was talking strat at the table.
Right.
That
Yeah.
used to set me on tilt. But like, I would like to run an RNG in a live game.
Yeah.
Just
I
for some
get it.
like a pre-flop 4-bet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just be like, do I feel like 4-betting this guy? Does he look weak? I don't want to be trusting that shit. Because for me personally, I have a lot of regret tied to those emotions. Like, if I made a decision, say I could 4-bet a hand 25% of the time, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it this time because of whatever my reasoning was. And it just works poorly. Like, he had value, whatever the case may be. I lost the pot. Mainly if he had value. If he just had some trash and like defended, I don't really care. But you see what I'm saying? I'll blame myself, and that will bother me. And I get to avoid that with RNG. For me personally, that's one of the advantages of using one. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Fair,
it doesn't really keep the fish very happy when you're like, oh yeah.
Just imagine if your imagine if your EV in the game is 3x what it would be playing an open game. And the only difference is you get to randomize in the open game, but you don't get to randomize in the private.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
That's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? So it's like even whenever it's something that micro, like you just have to give something back to people who are openly losing to you.
Yeah, I mean, look, I show fish the nuts when they fold. I'm like, good fold, mate. Good fold. So, look, I got a set. I'm running good, man. Another set.
And I 3-bet King Jack offsuit under the gun versus under the gun 1 because they want the action, and it's just not that big of a deal.
Okay. Agree to disagree on that. Nah, to be fair, man, I used to play street poker when I played live, man. It was so different for me playing live and online. Like, I would go after every pot. Like, every single pot.
Well, you have to, right? Because time's the great equalizer in a live scenario. So, all of this...
You still get raked heavily, though. So, like, if you're playing cash.
No, that's the thing. We're paying $15 an hour.
Okay, well, that's different to the situation I was in. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you're playing, like, private games or whatever. Or sorry, I guess like home games.
I know what you're saying, but time cap, it's a good feature. I like a time cap rake feature. I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're almost getting rake back. Like, we're eating the nicest restaurants and getting $100 dinners comped and stuff like that. We're paying fuck all every half an hour.
Did you get invited on the new season of High Stakes Poker, bro?
Not yet. I don't even know what's going to happen.
So they haven't run it, basically.
No, I mean with the COVID outbreak.
No shit. Like, yeah. What's that like in your city?
Man, Vegas is a ghost town right now.
You're in Vegas?
You could drive. Yeah, you could drive the streets right now, and it's like you're lucky to see another 10 cars around you. It's wild.
But there's some money to make in organizing, like one of those app home games right now. You could be printing.
Yeah, WSOP online is legal here, and they are running a series that's like, I don't know, 5 million guarantee over the next.
The
14
virus
days,
series,
something like that. Yeah. It's just killing. Like, I'm playing a 1K right now. There was a 75K guarantee, and it's 300,000 in the prize pool.
Oh yeah,
just mashed. 80K up top, no big deal.
You should try and play like some like 500 NL like on party poker or stars whenever you can. I reckon you just like have fun, like just seeing what people are up to. It's so
it would be. Having to leave the country is so hard, and I'm not set up on either.
Right, yeah. I guess if you just happen to be overseas, I would recommend doing it. I think you just find it like an interesting experience.
Yeah, it would be very counter to everything that I enjoy, and I think that that's a good thing. I think like forcing myself to just sit down and battle with really good players, playing very strict to
Pre-flop
GTO
rules and stuff, yeah.
kind of construct. It's like I know what they are, I just choose to disobey them for one reason or another. So like actually putting yourself in an environment saying like, okay, well if I actually had to stick to script and I respect everybody that I'm playing against, yada yada yada, like how could I fare over a certain sample size? It would be a fun experiment. It would just be one that I would need to find the time for.
Yeah, I mean it's probably just not worth your time at all, really. I just think it's kind of it's interesting. That's all. From a like,
there's an ego part that like makes me want to do it. It gets tiresome being the guy who constantly admits that he wouldn't fare well online and doesn't care to. Like,
is that a
I'm not
common
shy
question for you or some shit?
Oh, it's not a question. It's just like it's common feedback of like, how can you run a training site when you can't beat 500 Zoom? And it's like, well, because I'm not teaching online poker. Like, it's just very, very different between the live and online realms, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like a lot of people say that kind of shit, but they're just, I don't know, they like to have that's their own ego. Like maybe they're a 500 Zoom player, you know, they're like, because that's sort of how I always felt. Like I was a cash game reg, playing on stars, and to me, if you weren't beating stars cash, you were a shit player. Like that's just kind of how it was. Like someone was like, oh, I'm 20 player, I'm crushing like my ROI. I'm like, bro, you can't even fucking beat 100 NL, you know? That's sort of the ego of the cash man. To be honest, now it's like, because people were saying, oh, I should like ask you about like a bunch of tough spots. I'm like, that's just fucking stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, look at this guy. He's got big biceps. You know, he runs a successful business. Like, I look up to this guy. I don't want to fucking grill him about some random niche shit that I
honestly,
happen to
know. It's one of those things where it's like I'm happy to be very transparent about things. Like, we can talk through tough spots, and I'm not afraid of like admitting that I'm a little unsure of something or that I haven't run something. You know, it's not that I have any questions of my study or how I approach study or the people I entrust the study with. It's just that I'm not going to be as nuanced as an online player because I'm not thrust into hundreds of millions of spots. You know, for me, it's much more important to be able to kind of dissect the game from a zoomed out perspective, where we take the underlying principles of no limit hold'em and we recognize like the points of failure for most people and we attack those and we build strategies that will prey upon those rather than just being really 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 precise at like what exact candidate are you going to choose in this particular line work against or on this particular texture, etc. It's like
I guess
there's room for margin of error.
Yeah, it's a victim of circumstance thing almost, because like the people you play against, like you sound like you're pretty onto it with the live reads. Like I wasn't even thinking about like watching a guy on the river when I'm probably going to call, you know, just for the info. It's like pretty smart. I should probably do that. So now I've learned something here, which is great. But that kind of stuff, that seems to be like pretty important and probably like it would be significant edge. To be honest, I've like been in a spot before where like I gave it away with like a live tell and got called, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, I've done it. Like I could do it again. I haven't played live in a while. I don't even know. I'd probably feel out of my comfort zone if I just jumped straight into it. Like I'd have to warm myself up a bit. You know, like play a bit lower, barrel off a bit. You know, just feel okay about it. Before
the
I
good
was
news is
to play.
Almost nobody's paying attention. You know what I mean? So it's like you're not gonna have somebody like me who's sitting there really picking it apart and dissecting it. And most people who are paying attention are probably just leaning into their own biases as well. It's like I did a lot of fucking work to not look for the thing that I want to confirm the action that I want to take.
Yeah, that's a hard one to get over.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, just generally speaking, you're pretty protected by the fact that everybody else sucks.
Yeah, and on that point, I was basically going to suggest, it sounds like you were trying to break down ways to do better against people that you know you can categorize in a certain way. Like maybe they have this too much in their range, or maybe they do that too frequently on this board. These are the common mistakes that people that you're playing against are making. Whereas when you play against like 4 other dudes who are a similar style of play to you and skill level, and one fish, you don't really give a fuck how you play against the fish. Like the fish is going to lose either way. You have to work on the good balanced game for the so many spots you get into against the 4 other dudes that are good. That's kind of what an online table of poker is these days, on Stars anyway. If you join a regular table...
I think live is very different in the sense that those 4 other quote-unquote good players still exist, but instead of being the same, they're on a spectrum. So they're on a gradient scale, and what makes them good is going to differ person by person by person, and it's also going to open them up to like what makes each of them bad in some sort of way. So you really are attacking like each individual spot as if everybody's the fish, because largely in the live realm, like we are, ranges are far, far, far too wide by every single position, and far, far, far too passive.
I would just play normal though. Like, what would you do against me? I'm just in there playing normal.
Well, luckily I wouldn't have to do much because you would be.
I wouldn't be invited into the game.
No, it's not even that. It's just like you wouldn't get dealt.
I would just fold pre.
Yeah, you would just fold pre a lot. Like Sam Soverall plays in a lot of the games that I play, and it's like I played in a 25-50 game with him a couple weeks ago. He played for 4 hours. There was 4 whales and 3 pros that I think are shit, and then me and him, and he played exactly 1 hand in 4 hours. So it's
I
like
don't think I could do that.
0.
I think if there's some fish in a pie, you got to get in there with whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like when you're really studied and really good, it just becomes natural to kind of lean into what you know. And I imagine he's looking at like Queen Jack off in a lot of spots where he has like 2 shit regs and 2 fish left to act and just mucking. Because it's not in range. Where it's like I'm looking at Jack 7 suited in that same spot, and it's like, how much money can we shovel in this pot?
So my mate's just asked a question. I don't know if he's dicking around. I don't even know what this means, bro. But he says, ask him whether he believes Sam Soverall re 50k players championship hand.
Oh,
what is that? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, so I think they were 4-handed at the final table of the WSOP high roller, and Soverall Open got 3-bet shoved on, and I can't recall who was in the tank. It might have been Ben Heath was in the tank in the big blind.
Oh, is that where the guy like baits with the time chip, like pretending he folds with the time chip or some shit?
Well, sort of. I don't think he actually took any physical action, but Sam basically mucked out a turn.
I felt like the guy, if this is the spot I'm thinking of, I felt like the guy who put in the time chip put it in like a folded hand, and that was a potential angle.
That was the debate, but it definitely wasn't like he definitely wasn't doing it in a way to angle or anything like that. They're
both incentivized for what it's worth. Like the guy doing it,
yeah,
and the guy pretending that he thought it was a fold. They both have a reason to do this shit.
Right. Right.
They're basically teaming up to like try and move up the money ladder. So
I mean, for what it's worth, it's one of those things where it's like I don't know what Sam's real intention was. It could have totally been an accident. I have no idea.
Come on, Mr. Berkey live reads, bro. Come on, man.
Well, what I do know is that it ultimately didn't matter. The 2 hands that got it in were never not getting in. It was like Ace 10 suited reshoved and Ace Queen had a decision. And like 4-handed, I mean, the money is just like always going in. So it's kind of much to do about nothing. Knowing Sam...
Who do you think's paying ICM-wise, though, when it's on you to call with Ace-Queen? Who do you think loses in the ICM war? Because it could be you with the Ace-Queen. It might not be a call.
Yeah, he was the chip leader in that particular instance.
You got the under-the-gun left act behind you, right? Like 4-handed, so cutoff opened? And what, like small blind shoved? And we're big blind with Ace-Queen? Like, we could potentially cold call it off? Or we've got the under the gun behind. Is that sort of the spot?
But the Ace Queen had everybody covered by a large margin. The Ace 10 reshove was the same stack as the opener.
If you call and you're wrong, either way you lose your chip lead. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. That was the debate. Was that it obviously
was he suited though?
I can't recall.
If it's suited, it's probably just a snap, but offsuit could be a bit close.
Yeah. I just know that it was a debate because of obvious ICM reasons, and that made Sam's muck out a turn that much more egregious.
But who's doing it worse though? The guy who like folds his time card, or the guy who mucked his hand? Just like for what it's worth, the acting job on that was trash, IMO. Like it looked like he was faking the fuck out of it. The guy who folded out a turn.
Oh, Sam.
That looked like just such a fucking act job.
You mean you mean when he
Oh
realized?
my god. Yeah, I didn't believe that shit at all. Are you buying
Yeah.
or you're neutral? You're perfectly balanced man.
I wasn't buying in real time. I've seen and spoken to him since, and I have no reason not to believe him. But yeah, in real
People
time,
lie.
just seeing it happen, people lie. Sure.
He can't really
Uh,
be like, yeah, sorry, bro, fucking Cheatingtons.
no, that's fair. I guess that's fair. He seemed genuine though when discussing it in real time. And honestly, like I know this is a crazy stance to take, but those high rollers are such a small arena with the exact same crew of people that being an outsider, it doesn't really feel necessarily right, in my opinion, for like me to have a take.
Eh.
It's and I guess that's coming from the
You can.
vantage
The
point
thing
of
is,
like,
you can just be wrong. It's not a big deal. I think it's okay to
yeah,
have an opinion.
that's fair. That's fair.
The guy
I
did
get
something that he's responsible for, regardless. If you have an opinion
right.
about that, he shouldn't feel a particular way about your opinion. Like, you know, maybe
No,
if you're mates and he's
that's
like,
fair.
bro, like, please believe me, I didn't do this. Maybe then it's a bit insulting to be like, I actually don't believe the cunt. But
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
it
I guess what
certainly
I'm
looked
getting
like
at
a
is like
bad act job for sure.
those arenas tend to police themselves. I guess is like what I'm ultimately trying to make, or the point I'm trying to make. So like my opinion shouldn't really sway very much one way or the other. And I imagine that the collective 50 or 60 people who play high rollers are going to police this in some sort of capacity moving forward.
Well, they shouldn't have the time chips be like muckable, like a couple of cards. You know, like that's an issue.
Yeah. Usually it goes the other way. Usually like people put in a time chip like that and you get a reaction out of the other player as if like you're calling when you haven't. But in this particular
Either way, you
instance,
don't want that being part of the game.
yeah, right. Sam was just waiting to fold, so obviously like
I
it's a different
think maybe you
story.
should just have to say, I request time, and then, like, give them something or whatever.
Well, you don't have to do anything. It's auto. So they'll just take the time banks after. Like after the action's complete, after the hand's over. It's just people sometimes choose to physically move the time
What
card.
do you think about all that kind of angle shooting shit, bro? Like, you must have seen a
Uh,
bit of that in your time.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. I've
Torelli,
said
are you in or out on Torelli? I know that's one of the, like, the
I
chip hiding stuff.
I'll happily take a huge stance on Torelli. I think
Do you
he
like the
is.
boy?
No, I think he is a snake oil salesman.
Oh,
I
right,
think it's
okay.
insane that this guy is still in the industry.
He's got the grin of the salesman as well, you know?
I mean, he
And he's
sells
always,
essential
like, he's
oil.
always talking. Like, he's just talking. You know, those people, I never fucking trust them. It's like you
Yeah.
turn around, this guy's still fucking talking to you. You're like, what the fuck are we talking about again? I was just doing something. I was playing a pot, man. You fucking talking to me? I don't know him though, but yeah, I mean, Trejijo.
Yeah, I've played with him a handful. Just I don't know. He rubs me the wrong way. He seems like a bad actor. Let's put it that way. Like his intentions are definitely very
He's a
self-centered.
shitcoin salesman. He's just made
Yeah.
Trejijo coin, and he wants early investors.
Yeah, I could see something like that being the case. Um,
What about the parcel
yeah.
shit? Just quickly. I mean, that was some Cheatingtons. Did you get like some kind of buzz? I saw that you played the game, but I didn't see the whole thing. Were you like sus on this dude, or did you know shit?
I played the last session that he played. I had no idea something weird was going on, but like I knew that he was like basically the entire game was. I had no idea going into it of anything, right? So he was just another player to me. But within an hour, it was very clear that every decision was going to operate based on the fact that Pasa was at the table and
Because he was
playing
playing
his game.
every hand, basically, or what?
Yeah, he was playing every hand, and he was doing so in a very strange manner. Like he would just like limp call, limp three bet, like all this weird shit was taking place, and he was never showing down. He was never.
Was he
like,
cheating
not
in that
winning
game
pots.
though, or was he like
Yeah.
playing that game to try and lose to not look bad or something?
No, that was the biggest he had ever played in his life. He was definitely cheating. So usually he played like 1-3-2-5. That was 25-50, and he won massive. He won like I don't know 22,000 or some shit like that. So we actually are pretty hopeful. I have a student who is an engineer, and he's created software that will scrape um, live live streams and pull out all the relevant data and then convert it into hand history format. So the hopes are within a few months that we're going to have every single decision possible ever made on live stream in
Oh, okay. So
like,
you mean he can just filter through this program all the content
so
into a
we'll
like?
just we'll put all of the hand histories into like PT4 and then just sort based on whatever relevant
Yeah.
information we
I mean,
need.
that's awesome that that guy can do that, but fuck, it's just so obvious that the dude shafted everybody already.
Yeah. And the thing is, nothing's gonna come of it. Like, he has no
You reckon?
assets to seize.
Ah, okay.
I mean, what can they do? You know? You
Yeah,
can't
put him
squeeze
in
blood
jail
out
or
of a
something, you know?
That's the thing. He's only getting tried at civil court, so he's gonna get sued. He's gonna lose, and then he's just gonna be bankrupt.
Oh, another
But
day,
yeah.
another dollar for the boy, for the goat.
Right.
Dude, the funniest hand of that, though, I don't know if you saw this shit, but he check called a flop against top set with Jack 10 high, like a backdoor straight and flush draw, and turns top pair. Like, he's so dumb, he doesn't even realize, like, he has to pay off occasionally. Like, he refuses to lose any pot. He's like, fuck this shit. He's got, like, the nizzles flush against the straight flush. He's like, oh, motherfucker, I check call. I guess I have to call this. I guess this is the one time I can't fold.
Yeah, he cheated like the way that a 5-year-old would cheat.
Yeah.
Just like, perfect information, I'm going to make perfect decisions, period. That's it.
It's savage, though. I mean, I guess, like, look, now that that's happened, I mean, they're going to be a lot more onto it with people not cheating in those spots.
Right. Well, hopefully. I mean, you know, there's a lot that we need to improve upon whenever it comes to live streams as a whole. I think that, like, you know, I use the software too, the Andrew Milner Poker GFX, but he built it with the home game in mind. You know, he built it with the idea that it was just going to be Joe Smith and his buddies kind of playing a bar league game somewhere. So there are a lot of vulnerabilities kind of built in, and they were really exposed in this possible situation where we don't know how he cheated necessarily, but it just doesn't take very much to get communication to the back room. And once that becomes true...
He's such a moron, though. He had to have a partner.
Yeah, for sure. But imagine somebody smarter who cheated. It would be so hard to pick up on.
Yeah, but now that doesn't happen because of this idiot. So it's kind of good.
Hopefully that's true. Yeah.
To be fair, though, like, I mean, like, look, a really smart player would almost never use the information because they'd already be a good reg, and maybe just occasionally they would, like, make the hero call, or maybe just occasionally they would make that extra bluff, but not that often. Like, you'd have to be losing a ton of pots.
Yeah,
he's basically using wall hacks and aimbot. You know, like, I feel like if I sat in that game, I would have just been like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Like, if you played like enough hours, because the dude's a whale. He's just a fucking whale. Like, how is he winning?
Imagine if you were like a good player, playing nosebleeds every Friday on like Live at the Bike, and you're playing like, you know, 100, 200, 204 and something like that. You're constantly just asking for the game to be bigger and shit like that because it benefits you. And then you just start, like, you know, you could frame the cheating through a GTO strategy, right? It's like, imagine if you had perfect information and the framework for a relatively balanced strategy. So now your only thought process when you're cheating is, does this make sense with relevance to theory? And when the answer is no, then you just like exit the hand. Yeah.
Or pay them off.
Yeah, or pay them off, right?
So anyway, I could fold this. You're like tanking on the river. You've got like the nizzles, second nizzles. You're like, could I ever fold this in theory? You're like, oh, god damn it, I call.
Right. Be like, oh fuck, this is one of those ones where
you call and just like already throw your cards into the muck with the second.
He did that a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did that a couple times where it was like he was like forced to pay off and already mucking.
It was sick how he was like tilted, like by the result of like a river or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like you win every pot, bro. Like, you don't want to lose one. Come on, bro.
That ego, man, gets the best of people.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic too, like ego in poker. Because obviously, like, I came from having like this huge like ego buff, basically, like thinking I was like a top 5 player in the world when I was just like an okay mid-stakes player, basically. Mm-hmm. But when I played live, man, like I had it, you know, and that is like, I'm not an aura believer, but you emit something with confidence that people can see and feel. And man, people were just like so obvious to me because I had this image, and I feel like Ivy is just like the best in the business for that type of advantage over people. Like, he has this, like, he's the end boss kind of aura, and people just can't play properly against this dude, basically. Like, he barely ever made a wrong decision given what he had. Like, he was almost like a wall hacker, like Postle Styles. Like, the guy almost never fucked up a decision. But he would play, like, you know, pretty spewy hands and stuff, but he almost never fucked up. Like, that was poker. That was sick. Did you ever play with Ivy, like Prime Ivy?
It's funny. I've like literally one Ivy story. I played with him exactly once ever. It was in, I don't know, 2013, 2014, something like that. He sits down. We're playing an ante-only tournament at the World Series. He buys in late. They only ran it like 1 year.
What is it? Like Hold'em and there's no blinds?
The blinds just stay the same. So it's 100, 200 the whole tournament. And he sits down and he looks at the dealer and he goes, "What the hell is this?" And the dealer's like, "Oh, it's an ante-only tournament." And he's like, "Huh, okay." 3 seconds later, he's opening for the first time and he just chooses the right size immediately. And it's like, this guy's a fucking wizard.
What was the right size? Like 1,000 or something? Like 5 blinds or something?
Basically, you just figure out like what the pot is, and you.
Oh, so there's no blinds, or there is blinds.
There are. It's 100, 200 the entire time, but the antes continually escalate. So the antes start at 100, and then they'll just like raise over and over and over again, right? So like he maybe came in at like 100, 200, 500 ante. So there's something like, I don't know, 4,800 in the pot. And he probably had something like 20K starting stack. So, he just sits down and immediately he just like opens to 2,500. It's like, who is this guy? Like, how does he just know what the proper opening size is in a tournament that like he had no idea what it even was 3 seconds ago?
Percent of pot is a pretty reasonable way to open, though.
Yeah. But it's mid 2000s. Not everybody was exactly sure.
I was hoping for a better story than he knew how to open pre. Like he's a bit of a boss, man. But if that's all you got, fair enough.
I played a lot with Dur. I played a lot with Jungle. I mean, those are the guys that I guess come closest to that level of.
Did you ever snap Dur off?
I stacked Dur a few times.
Oh, nice. Give us one of those. They sound good.
I wish I could remember the hand histories a little bit better.
That's all right.
The last time I played with him, he was just passing through. This was probably like a year and a half ago. He came into like a semi-shorthanded game, bought in for, I think we were playing 100K buy-in, something to that effect. So we were probably playing like 3-6. Buys in for 100K, and within like an hour and a half, he just has like all the small chips on the table. So he has like, I don't know, maybe 180, 200,000 in front of him, but it's literally like all $100 and $500 chips and 1K chips, like no flags. He's just, winning millions and millions of small pots. And a hand came up where I think I raise called a 3-bet versus him with Jack 10 suited. And I basically just like hung on with middle pair for 3, where he like pot ripped the river. And I was just like, it's there. I call. So we ended up playing like this massive pot where I just have like one pair. It was either top pair or middle pair, I can't recall. And it was good. And he was just like, "All right, guys, I'm going to the club." Just stood up, walked out, never looked back.
Did you stack him like for the full amount, or was it?
Yeah. And the hand was probably straddled, so like it wasn't nearly as many big blinds as it sounds. But yeah, I mean, he just casually came in, won all the hands, gave it all back, and went on his merry way.
That's pretty cool. I mean, he was definitely a hero of the times. Seeing him lately, he does look a bit like sort of fucked, He's a character, though. Like, yeah. I mean, there's definitely a certain aura about him. I remember, I guess it would have been like 2015. I was in the midst of a really big downswing. So we were playing huge at the time. It was before like Paul Fu and all those guys got banned from America. And we were playing like anywhere between 3-6-12 and like 2K, 4K on any given day. And I was just taking the worst of it. I was on like about a 5 million downswing, and I was playing with Dur a lot during that time frame. Obviously, he's like close with those the Chinese guys. And I remember he had told a mutual friend of ours, he was like talking, or they were talking about me in some sort of capacity, and he was just like, "Man, that Berkey, I've never seen somebody play more hands pre-flop." And like having that plays like
him,
every 8 deuce suited.
Yeah, it was just like the most ironic thing I had ever heard. But it was also a big wake-up call where it was like,
it's a compliment.
Yeah, I kind of took it that way, but I was also in the biggest downswing of my life. So it was kind of like,
right.
maybe I'm playing a little too
fish.
loose. Yeah. Maybe I'm playing a little too loose for these stakes. And I should sure up a few things. But Yeah, it was a wild time. I mean, that summer was out of hand to say the least. I went on a $5.5 million downswing and a $6 million upswing over the course of like 13.5 months, I think.
That is the good way to do it, man. You don't want to do 6 million up and then 5.5 million down. That feels bad, man.
I'm sure.
You want to go down then up. Then you feel like, oh fuck, I'm even. This is sick.
I think I'll take it either way as long as out of action, like dead smack in the middle.
I don't agree, man. I think you got to think about the roller coaster. You're up 6 milli. You're the best player ever. Everybody loves you. All your videos are popping off. You're the nuts. Boom, fucking break even. What happened? Oh man, look at your graph. You know, this kind of shit.
No, that's true. That's true. Because when you get up that fast, you start making financial decisions if you have that money forever.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to lose, and it also like kept my standing in the game for a long time.
Do you have like a big failure in poker or like a huge regret? Was there ever just one hand where you just like, and it meant a lot, you know?
I'm sure there are. I've probably done my best to forget about them. I think maybe like my biggest failure overall in poker would probably be, and this is a little bit more abstract, but
That's right.
I didn't really network myself the way that a lot of like the guy, not even necessarily the guys my age, although I guess you could make a comparison to like the Galfons of the world, you know, that whole ship at Halabala crew. I never really did that. So I kept my distance from most other players. I had like 2 or 3 really close friends in the game. But to me, it was just like always a battlefield where I didn't want to get close to somebody who I might have to sit across from and have it affect the way that I was going to play. And because of that, when it came time to finally like enter the realm of the big game and, you know, start pulling funds and stuff like that, I was really just kind of like left to take shitty deals from, you know, people who were interested in backing a profitable player. So I ultimately started out with like a deal where the equity was really favorable to me, but I was putting up a massive amount of risk in a situation where we were collectively just underrolled. And as the game kept getting bigger, I had to take on more investors. And as more investors came in, I got diluted more and more. So, you know, I played the big game for the better part of a half a decade where I was like anywhere between 15 and 25% of myself. And that's still a lot, but I feel like if I had done a better job of creating a good niche group of friends who were also very successful that would like be happy to pool money and things along those lines, I think that there would have been a lot more upside to that specific time period of my life.
Hey man, you're doing a lot better than me, bro. I just spent my roll on rent and food for like 6 years.
I get it. I definitely did a lot of that. Maybe I don't regret that because I think it helped me better understand. Like it really did teach me a lot of firsthand lessons. But yeah, from like '03 to 2013, that 10-year span, I was broke any given day.
Nice.
I had case money on the line any given day. Like, you know, it was just the only way that we kind of really learned how to gamble, I guess. We weren't given the path that a lot of these guys are nowadays, where it's like, here's proper bankroll management. Here's how you can scale from micro stakes to high stakes. And, you know, back then it was just like, are you smart? Do you know how to play the game? Go find the biggest game in the room and play.
Yeah, I mean, and life's different. I think anytime you were playing online, like it's a lot easier to have that bankroll management, you know? But
yeah, that's true.
Live, I mean, you know that there's so many fish. How can you not play this game, you know?
Right.
And it's like super fun. You're like, do you really want to sit there playing like 5-5 when you could be playing the 25-50 game with all these fish?
Exactly.
Who are you? Are you a pussy? Are you a little pussy? You know, you're going to sit there playing 5-5? You're like, no, I'm not a pussy. You go play 25-50 and lose like your whole roll.
Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play it like so shit bad. As well.
Whenever you have to like tuck your tail, go home and like rethink all the bad decisions that you made that night.
Yeah, one thing you said earlier, you're not sure if you had crumbs left or not, like when you lost your roll that time. I remember losing my roll. I think it was at a table game, like after I lost at poker or something like that, when I was real young, and I had like crumbs left. I fucking just threw that shit in the bin, you know. Just had like one trip on my multi-pass bus card to get home, sitting outside the casino at 4 a.m. waiting like for the first bus. But that feeling of being completely busto, and when you're young, it's like the world is your oyster. You know, you're coming up with plans. You're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, we're going to do this. It's going to be sick. You know, we're going to get back on track. We're going to be the best. You know, you got all these like delusions running through your mind constantly. The drug use, obviously, it's just weed and drinks for me, but still. I haven't
Yeah,
smoked weed in a while. I've quit alcohol about 3.5 months ago. I don't know what your deal is with any of that
I've
stuff. You into that or
I've never drank. I've never done drugs. I literally am clean as a whistle.
clean as a whistle?
It's pretty.
How you never
It's
do
pretty
drugs, man? You
crazy.
never heard that they're good?
I have heard that they're good.
Yeah,
I don't
pretty
know.
good.
Yeah, it's just pretty good. Those drugs.
Yeah,
I honestly, I've never had curiosity. It's a crazy thing, but
bro. I
um,
think you'd have the time of your life on DMT or some shit.
I think I would probably shit myself on DMT.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I guess I've always like had a strong, um, I guess like a strong value to my mindset and like keeping my scruples about me. Like I've just always trusted my ability to like, I guess like kind of like work my way through things because I'm of sound mind. And to some degree, there's been a healthy level of fear of like what I would be like if I were able to like, or if I were ever put in a situation to lose control of my own mind.
I
I mean,
sort of
that's
I
something.
sort of had that for harder drugs. Like I never did anything. Like I was just like a pothead basically. I was so
Yeah.
worried that I would like them so much, or that they would change me so much. You know, like those are the two fears that kind of kept me away. So in my time, I've never done DMT. I would like to at some point in
Mhm.
my life, but the hardest thing I've ever done
Yeah.
is like half a tab of acid, bit of MDMA, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nothing too
Yeah.
crazy.
I think things like psilocybin, they interest me from a scientific standpoint, but not from an experimental one. I don't really care to experience it, but I understand why people do, and I think that it's probably really helpful for them. I'm also just like arrogant enough to think that like I can spend enough time thinking deeply about the things that plague me and ultimately arrive at some sort of conclusion that isn't necessary to be unlocked through like being on a trip. But I'm probably just wrong. Like I'm sure that these things would have long-term benefits to me if I were willing to go that path. I'm just a little bit, I guess, hesitant.
Well, it's risky, man. You wake up, you think you're an orange. You know, you never know what's going to
Right.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it's low probability for stuff like that to even happen, but
You
it
don't want
does
to be an
seem quite
orange.
frightening.
Yeah, it
Right.
wouldn't be that good.
Nick Howard asked me on a podcast once what my greatest fear on earth was, and if it were death. And I said no. I said my greatest fear would be to go insane because I think in the process of losing your mind, you have no idea that you're losing your mind. So you're just living some alternate reality that nobody else can see, and that to me sounds like horrifying.
I think my greatest fear would be like trapped, like unable to move anything whatsoever until I suffocate to death. I think that would be
Oh
my
yeah,
greatest fear. Like even if you
almost
move
like the
your
Black Man.
eyes in a direction, it just slices off the lid. Plus
Jesus
torture.
Christ.
Torture would
Yeah,
be absolutely horrible. Like kept alive, full of adrenaline, just getting pieces of you like picked off, eyebrows, like whatever, fuck, everything just chopped away. I think
yeah,
that shit would be. I mean, sorry to
that's
take
pretty
it too
dark.
dark, man, but
Yeah,
it's hard to trump that one, you know.
yeah, and I guess like that's a pretty fair thing to say too because
I also
once
think
you
you're
go
scared of
insane,
folding the river if you have a bluff catcher. I think that's a bit of a fear for you, man.
that's a deep dark fear. But yeah, like going insane, once you're insane, you don't know you're insane, so like at least you have that sense of relief.
You're having a great fucking time going insane, though. You know, you're
Yeah,
having an
perhaps.
absolute blast going insane. See, maybe, yeah, maybe that's the right. You came to that conclusion through the drug line of conversation, right? They were a
Yeah,
linked
yeah,
thought.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Because certainly, like in the moment, at least, you would be experiencing some pretty like, especially if that's something you fear. You're probably going to be
Mhm.
forced to confront an idea that that's what's happening to you right now because it's so out of like even weed might make you feel that way. Like honestly, there's a
I've
lot of
heard a lot of
introspection with drugs.
yeah, and I've heard a lot of like paranoia can come with smoking weed and things of that nature, which I have none right now. And that's kind of like the other concern is that like a lot of the things that I feel pretty devoid of, like sadness or paranoia or anxiety, things of that nature, I feel like are probably likely to be unlocked if under the influence
Yeah,
of
man.
something.
I think you made a
Like I'm
good
not an
choice.
angry person at all. What's that?
I think you made a good choice.
Yeah, like I'm not an angry person at all, but like my dad was very abusive, and I could just imagine me being a really like out of line drunk.
Hmm. That's fair, man. I mean, like, for me, I would normally say, like, look, you know, if you've never done it, you can't really talk type of state of mind. But there's no
Yeah,
need. There's no need. I mean, like, look, a lot of people I know, they're smart dudes as well, and they've got a lot of problems like that. It's like life is fucking hard. It's depressing. If you don't
yeah,
have any of that and you've never done the shit, doing the shit is probably fucking terrible because the rest of us have all done the shit. We're sitting here like, man, what do we even do in this fucking world, man? You know, it's like, it's tough.
yeah,
But,
yeah. I think that's fair. And again, like from the other side of it, like I don't judge anybody who's kind of trying to figure it all out on their own and experiment with types of shit. It's like whatever, man. Do whatever you got to do as long as it's responsible.
all right, what about some women?
What do you want to know?
When did you get started with the women?
Very late. I was obsessed with baseball. So like I dated sporadically throughout college. Never really put very much thought, time, or energy into it.
When did you get laid
Um,
though? Let's say. Start off at the start.
uh, Early college.
Okay.
Um, but it was one of those things where it was just like I don't want to say like out of necessity or anything like that, but it was just like it was an afterthought effectively. It was a nice caveat to being in college, and by the time I was a senior, I was just like so paralyzed with fear of what comes next whenever you have to be an adult. That like I wasn't even really able to enjoy like the last 12 months or so that I was in school. Um, and then moving to Vegas, like easily the most antisocial city that I had ever lived in. Particularly as somebody who is in a male-dominated industry that was kind of a little bit, I guess, I don't want to say introverted, but like, I wasn't doing all the things that people my age would have been doing to meet people. Like I wasn't out drinking, I wasn't out doing drugs, I wasn't out at the club, I wasn't doing all this shit. So I'm just in a poker room a lot with a bunch of dudes, not really meeting anybody. Um, so yeah, it was probably like my 30s whenever I really got extremely comfortable just meeting people organically and dating a lot more and putting some more effort into it.
Were females much of a thought? Like a little bit about me when I was young. Like I was just like obsessed with trying to get laid. Like when I was young, I was
Yeah,
like, gotta do this shit. Can't be getting left behind. My mates were generally older than me. I would say
yeah,
I was loosely obsessed with women. Like I would fall in love with like every decent looking chick that like entered my life in any way. Basically,
sure.
you didn't experience anything along those lines or like any of that
I
shit.
did. No, I definitely did, but I was really good at like finding and not I'm saying good sarcastically, but I was very, very efficient at friend zoning myself.
Nice. Yeah.
I was just man, I had it on lockdown.
It
So
didn't
like yeah,
bother you
I
though.
guess like
You just
no, it
moved on.
did. It bothered me more in high school than anything else
Mm,
because I think at that time frame it's really difficult to like parse through your feelings and where the hell you are in the world, like what you're actually supposed to be pursuing because like you have this kind of like division where half the people are saying like you should have a girlfriend by now, you're 16, like this is the most important thing that should be happening to you in adolescence, and then another half saying like no, don't worry about it, like sports are all that really mattered, just pour all your time energy into that, and then some other group basically saying like you got to take on higher education and you got to pursue all this career stuff. And I think at that age it's just nice to find security in knowing somebody else likes you. It's you're just at such a fragile, insecure age that not dating in high school definitely wore on me a lot, and I
mm.
was kind of head over heels for one of my best friends, which was also just like
Been
awful.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But are they really
But yeah,
your
like
friend? You know, you're kind of just in love with them, and they're just like using you for some attention most of the time.
yeah, we were really, really, really close. We went to college together as well. We stayed close through college, but yeah, I mean, like once she got married and went on her separate way, started a family, we didn't talk for like a decade.
Yeah, fair. So the first time you were in a serious relationship, then you were like 30s. Is that what you're saying?
I was 32, yeah, and I've
Damn,
probably
boy.
only been in like two serious
I was
relationships
gonna
ever.
ask you like which chicks in the poker industry you'd railed, man. Like Marley, yeah, nah, like that kind of shit. Sounds like nah though.
Marley and I dated for a while,
Oh, you did. You piped. Fuck, what a boss. She's very
but
attractive, especially when she was younger. I'd say she's got a good
she's super
personality
sweet.
too.
Yeah, she's one of the sweetest people. Like, despite what I guess the surface
I think people
opinion
like
there.
her in general, I'd say, from what I know.
No, no, I do too, but I think she comes off very polarizing, and she's not that way. I think like that's just like her comedic approach. In a general sense, like if you see her in a room and don't know her, she's gonna be smiling. She's gonna be very nice. She's gonna be polite. She's definitely one of the more, I guess, like outwardly kind people that I've come across, which is always
It's
really
cool.
great, especially in Vegas. But yeah, I mean, I always tried to stay away from that. I was never a big fan of dating inside poker for the same reason I didn't want to make friends inside of poker.
Right, you got to
It's
tell us the tale, though, bro. Come on.
I mean, there's no
How'd you?
tale.
Well, there's no tale. You said you were dating her, right?
No, we did a while ago.
You banged her, right?
Sure.
Okay. Well, how'd you meet her? You know, like where did it start?
Um,
What was your move? We need to learn if we want to try and pick her up
there
ourselves.
there was no move whatsoever. It's just
She was just right
we
on you. Like she knew what she
no, we
wanted.
were just friends. We were just
Started
friends for a long
unzipping.
time. No, no, no. We were just friends for a long time. She was dating somebody that was like a friend of my group.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of got to know her that way. She came through the academy. I got to know her in a student setting, and we remained
Oh,
friends for like a year
that's a
thereafter.
bit of a little bit of role play there. Student and the
Wasn't
teacher.
intentional. Definitely
Did you give her a
wasn't
discount
intentional.
though, or it didn't really work like that?
I mean, this was like 18 months, 2 years before we even considered like going out on a date.
Oh,
So
okay.
like the timeline was very long and stretched out.
So there's a lot of sexual tension.
Sure, sure, we can frame it that way.
But then how did it
uh,
go down? Like when when you took it to the next stage of that relationship, then what changed?
Standard, I
What
guess.
happened?
Nothing really changed. She was single for a bit. We had been talking a lot. Decided to start going out on a date. Started seeing each other, and then we were just kind of like off and on for a short period of time. But
Man, no
I mean,
fucking juicy facts at all, bro. Come on.
it
Were
wasn't
you keen? Were you
glamorous.
keen
I
as?
was,
You know, were you thinking about this chick or no?
but like that's the thing is it was so bad from my side. Like I was so awful in facilitating the relationship. So it's like it's not something that there's anything to brag about. If anything, it's like a big regret where I didn't handle it well.
Ah,
It
for
wasn't
sure.
a situation where
It's just a
I
good
was.
topic, man. Everybody likes the Marley, you know.
Yeah, yeah, she's great. Everybody should. It's just one of those things where it's like it's a little sore for me because I definitely wasn't my best version of myself, and
Yeah.
that's
Didn't do a
not
good
an easy
enough
thing
job
for
in
me
bed.
to
I know that feeling, man.
do.
Just like off
Yeah,
game, you know. Just fuck. What am I doing?
I would feel way better about it if that were all it was. But no, I was shitty. I was definitely I was overworked, underpaid, and definitely not giving her enough attention.
Yeah, I mean, surprisingly, I don't know if you know, she's dating a dude who streams on Twitch called Spraggy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
she seems like she's
I've never met
really
Spraggy, but
like a chick who's in love, you know. And I was guessing
oh,
she
for
was
sure,
more of a
for sure.
chiller. She seemed like she's kind of taking the piss. She's probably just having a bit of fun, that type of chick. But she
No, no,
seems like wow, she's really like love, you know. She likes that shit.
yeah, 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 for sure.
Not
I
really
don't know
my
him
cup of
personally.
tea. It's too
I don't know
vulnerable,
him
you know, man.
personally, but
It hurts when you feel that way.
what's wrong with that?
It sucks.
I mean, I think it only sucks if you end up on the wrong side of it, right? It's like that's the whole point of taking risk. It's just like sitting with your whole role, you know?
Both are good, I guess.
Yeah. It's like there's a positive outcome from it all.
Eh. My mate thinks I'm gonna go down a tangent. Now he's baited me not to do it. That's cool. I've got some stories. All right, we'll just sweep those back under the rug.
All right, man.
But no, that's cool, dude.
This is your
Sorry,
show.
that's my show. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. By the way, we're not wrapping it up right now, but just to take a moment, it's nice of you, dude. You're like quite a well-known guy. I don't know how busy you
Oh,
are and
no
all
problem.
that kind of shit. Like, I'm not really that well known. I stream a bit on Twitch. It's basically just like regs in my chat.
Yeah, I get it. No, I'm happy to do it. I just busted the 1K, which makes me quite sad. Maybe not the best spot. Probably could have passed. I don't know. A little sketchy.
You've
Let me
playing a
get your
tourney this
thoughts
whole
on.
time. Yeah. Okay. Go.
All right. 6 max. Folds to me on the button. King queen off. 29 big blinds.
Okay.
Clear open.
Yeah. What
Small
sizing?
blind.
You
Just went
2.5 it
mid.
or min?
Just went mid.
All
We're
right.
standard mid. Small blind has 17 bigs. Big blind is the chip leader of the tournament with 95 bigs.
Okay.
He 3-bets to 6 blinds. Where we at here?
Snap. Never 4-bet, never fold.
Interesting. Okay. I ripped it.
Don't like it.
Feel stinky?
Too many blinds.
It felt dirty. It felt dirty. It
Plus,
did feel
like,
dirty.
people who 3-bet, like, that kind of sizing out of position, a little bit polarized sometimes, you know?
Yeah. He had
I
3-bet
just
me the
call.
orbit prior.
It's just a good, like, in-position call, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty cheap.
I think my instincts were in line with yours, but I kind of fell victim to the meta. I had opened the exact same spot with Jack 7 suited the orbit prior, and he made the exact same 3-bet. So
I'd be more tempted to fold the Jack 7 suited.
I did fold the Jack 7 suited.
It's probably still a call, but like it just kind of sucks for your stack, like to lose those extra blinds.
Yeah. I folded the Jack 7 and then one orbit. It's like I have a much better hand.
Did he have you dead or was it a flip?
Ace King clubs.
Ay, that's annoying.
Dead as could be. Yeah.
Queen, do you have the Queen of Clubs too, just to like really suck?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Oh,
flops
man.
out 3 to a wheel.
That's right. You didn't want to be in that tournament anyway, man. It was taking your focus, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I didn't even notice you were really playing. When you said that, I was like, is he actually playing a tourney right now? It doesn't seem like he is. I'll just leave it alone, though.
I don't know how to describe World Series Online, but it is very, very lucrative. Let's put it that way.
Oh, yeah. I say fish all the time on my stream. I call everyone a fish. So.
Yeah, you're just not getting put to tough spots. And sometimes I punt because of that, I think, because I feel like it should be different than what it is. But basically, late reg goes really, really long. And what it results in is this period where after registration closes, there's just like this massive constellation period where everybody's just all in for, 2 levels. Just trying to get rid of their 10 blind stacks or kind of move up. Where so there's like a pile of action, but the beauty is that the buy-ins are relatively large. So like I played 3 events tonight, a 215, a 500, and a 1K. And by the time registration closed, 2/3 of the field is gone. So like, you're in a pretty good spot where you are not that far out of the money, but it's also this weird situation where the bubble is coming up close and chips are really flying. It's kind of opposite to what you would expect in most other tournament structures, I think.
Yeah, I heard it was a pretty soft site. I mean, like anywhere that like all the American players can play is going to be pretty soft. If you think back in the day, there was just quite a lot of fish like that liked playing poker from America. So when they stopped being able to play on like the major sites, it was quite like brutal for the regs as well.
Yeah. A good example. I'm good friends with Nick Howard, who runs the Poker Detox coaching site, and they do a lot of data-driven stuff. And one of the trends that they noticed is that in online MTT player pools, cash in online cash pools, rivers tend to be overbluffed by fish. And what they found in American regulated sites is the exact opposite. That rivers are drastically underbluffed. Yeah, exactly. And that's no surprise. It's just like we're just generally way behind the learning curve because nobody's able to put in the volume.
Yeah, it's hard to say like fish tendencies. It's not really something I think about too much. I have this weird theory that the reason that the US banned online poker, like Black Friday came about, was because this site Poker Table Ratings. Do you happen to know what that is?
Yep. Yeah.
So they released a few months before Black Friday, maybe 6 months even, but it was months before, but not that far away. Stats by country. And it listed like the top winning, which is almost none, and the top losing country. So it's basically which country is stuck the most. And the US was stuck $30 billion. And I feel like some government official just saw this and was like, motherfucker, and they're not paying tax on that. Shut this shit down.
Wow.
Australia was like 5th for what it's worth, but nowhere near as much money. But 30 billion, yeah. Because if you just think, I mean, it's a rake pit, right? Like, not that many people win at online poker. 30 billion, that's what they paid the sites. and the sites paid no, tax to the U.S. government. So I feel like they were
Right.
like, they probably hit the sites up. They're like, hey man, you want to ship us like some billies? And they were like, nah, bruh, don't have to. And they were like, all right, fuck you then, no more fish for you. And they're like, yeah,
I guess
whatever,
that would
man.
make a
Took
lot of
all your
sense.
money already, so
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, that makes sense, right? Like, Full Tilt kind of got to like all the owners walked away pretty much scot free with liquidity.
yeah. How they don't get like
Um,
knocked out or stabbed or something? What's with that? I thought all of you Americans carry guns. Like, no one want to kill that guy. Like, he stole your fucking money. It's not that good.
yeah, man, I don't know. No, I'm a pacifist. I'm not trying to get out there and I
You
didn't even get
you
really
underbluff
affected
the
all that
river, do you?
much. A little bit, yeah.
Oof. But you call a lot to make up for it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the ultimate whale.
Yeah. But you're never wrong
It's
though. There's not. I don't see too
I-
many. Where's the Berkey being really wrong YouTube video? He tends to
I
just
called
like.
Chris Kruk with King 10 high where he had a full house.
At
That's
least he
pretty
had the
wrong.
nuts though. If he has like thin value, you're like, holy fuck, that was a bad call. But if he has the nizzles,
Yeah,
you're like,
that's
it was that or nothing. You know, I played it good. Got unlucky.
That's true. I didn't exactly have one of the best hands to be calling with. It was right after Garrett had turned that ace on me for a $500,000 pot.
Okay. Yeah, that's a roughie. And you hate those
the
spots. I've been stacked in one of those spots like a little bit recently, and the sizings, you're just like, motherfucker, top set. You know, like you can just sort of feel the whole thing happening. Like this hand's really in slow mo. Like he knows you've got the nuts, but he's still betting, like betting. You're like, fuck.
He bet like 75% of his stack on the river, or maybe a little bit less, maybe like 60% of his stack. And I had a decision whether to just call or shove.
Were you only
And I,
losing to AA?
9-7 came in,
Whatever. Yeah.
but yeah, pretty much. So like I tank for a long time, and obviously I rip it, and he then tanks and calls.
Okay. Maybe
guess
he
he
was
just
doing
wanted,
your thing on the live tell, you know?
I think he
Maybe he just
wanted
couldn't
to double check.
believe how lucky he'd gotten that he's in this spot. He's like, holy fuck, I've got the
Right.
nuts, right?
Yeah, I think like he was just trying to figure out if there's somehow that it mattered, still calling. But and I remember as soon as the hands got tabled, I said out loud, it's like I knew I should just fucking called.
Yeah.
This is like pretty absurd, but it did feel eerily like a setup. I mean, you just don't see 5 bets all that often. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen between me and Garrett. We're 300 blinds deep, but like still.
I mean, when you're a bit deeper, you can 5-bet wider, but still, a lot of the time,
Yeah, but it's
a 5-bet
he
is
3-bet from the
aces
big
or a
blind to
suited
begin
ace.
with. Yeah, it's like he 3-bet from the big blind to begin with, and then chose to 5-bet. Like that's aces a lot for sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, what can you do, man? You had a set of kings, you know, it's not that bad.
Yeah, felt bad.
Shove the
Felt real
flop,
bad.
man. Shove the flop. Protect your hand.
I know. Everybody
good.
said it, man. Just check the YouTube comment. I'm such.
Oh,
an
really?
idiot.
Oh, why didn't you go all
Yeah.
in on the flop? Yeah, fair enough. That's a roughie. So what, we covered chicks? I got a little piece of paper here. Let's see what else we got on this. Oh, we got Bitcoin. We got virus. We got
The virus.
haircut. We did the haircut. I'm gonna get the photo back of there. Sorry if it's embarrassing, but you got your hair back on the stream. What about this random question? Like, it's a hard question to answer. Like, what's your favorite movie? But like, what's a movie that you reckon's good that you'd recommend to people that they might not have seen or some shit?
Well, my favorite movie is Good Will Hunting, which I would recommend to everybody. I think it's fantastic. I'm trying to think if there's one that's like
Damon, right?
Yeah.
I found
Yeah,
that
it
title
was,
confusing. I felt like that based on the title of the movie would be like nothing like what it was. You know what I mean?
What were you expecting?
Just some sort of weird like country romance or something. I don't fucking know.
Okay.
Goodwill
I
Hunting.
mean-
Like you're hunting for goodwill, but the dude's name is Will Hunting, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's just like very different.
Yeah. But I mean, it
It's a
did
good
kind
one.
of like have that like dark undertone of, you know, him being an abused orphan and trying to find the goodness.
Yeah,
in
the
his
janitor
adulthood, yada,
boss.
yada, yada.
He-
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's anything I saw recently that was like worth watching from a knowledge standpoint or anything of that nature. I thought the Brene Brown special on Netflix was pretty good.
Haven't seen it.
Even though it's a little woo woo. She's just a data analyst for basically all things empathetic. So she does a lot of data collection on empathy and vulnerability. Basically all the things that will make your skin crawl a little bit. and she did a hour-long discussion on it on Netflix, which I thought was pretty good.
Okay. I like Revolver with Jason Statham. You should watch it.
Okay, I'll check that out.
So it gets a really shit rating. It's like a 4 of 10 movie, but it's
Oh,
nuts.
it's one of those.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Man. It's a great movie.
What about like Snatch? I feel like that's a better.
I haven't seen it recently enough to like remember everything about it. I know I've seen it though.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's very good for sure.
So we got a couple questions in the chat. If you don't mind giving a quick answer,
Fire away.
Does Berkey think Garrett is one of the best players in the world?
I think he is an excellent live player. I think he's capable of beating online, but I don't think that his game necessarily transfers over 1-to-1. So I think he would have to do a lot of work to suddenly be able to compete with like OTB or anyone else that's just crushing nosebleeds online.
He'd definitely lose online, but like he's a boss live for sure.
Yeah, I think that distinction's worth making because I think too few people like give credit where credit's due. It's like, do I think he's winning more than if OTB got sat in the exact same live games? I don't know. Maybe because Garrett's really good at knowing how to maximize EV of individual spots, and the games are so slow that becomes a pretty critical skill.
It would be tough for him if there were more regs in his games, though. I think I don't feel like his strategy would do well against regs either way. Like regardless of like the live presence or whatever you want to call it.
No, I agree.
But he's a cool player and very entertaining. I think you guys are somewhat similar, honestly.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend that we both kind of, I think, shaped our live play around, who was just the best at creating a good loose live atmosphere, and it kind of landed us both in a situation where we just understand what makes for a good game. And like, yeah, your point's valid. If you fill the game with 7 killers, he's definitely giving up something, as am I. But I think for the most part, like most people just don't have any interest in playing in those types of games live. And the beauty is that live is so, I guess, like nuanced in a way where there's enough dead money to go around because the game's so damn slow that it's just going to stay protected for a very long period.
Does he buy into cover you when you sit with him?
Usually, yeah.
Do you rebuy to cover him and then see what he does, or you never made that move?
No, I mean there have been basically it's like whoever's home turf we're playing on seems to be the one who covers. So like when he plays in Vegas, when he plays in Vegas, I just have more money available to me offhand. When I play in LA, I have to usually borrow off of him. So it's like it's hard for me to move money, and he's always been very generous in like helping me out with shit like that.
That's cool, man. Yeah, and he seems like you're in the gym a bit, right? Like I've seen the biceps. I just imagine you're still in there.
Yeah, I'm trying.
He clearly is all over the gym, right? Like, do you reckon he did any roids or no? He's looking good, though.
I don't think so. I think that he's just like been very diligent with the bodybuilder's routine, basically dating back to like when he was on Survivor, if not before. Just a really smart guy, It's like he takes the time to do his research. He takes the time to be disciplined and regimented, and I think you see more and more of that whenever you start to find people who have success in any sort of realm. It's like categorically, it's difficult to ever pinpoint who's the best at any one given thing. But I don't think it's that hard to kind of like pluck out the guys who are doing it right, so to speak. And I think Garrett's a good example of that. It's like, is he the best player in the world? I don't know. I don't really care. I do know that like he has a pretty envious life. Like he's doing a lot of things right, and I think that's probably overall more important than being able to hold the crown of like.
Yeah, there's no crown. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
The networking part of live is such a huge deal, and like you said, like playing that kind of strategy. I feel like the old me was like a nutted live player. Like I used to get into pretty good games. I was just a tank. Like I would be drinking 2 drinks at once, like the entire night, and just playing laggy and shit, and always showing like fish that I had them beat and that kind of stuff. I was like a reasonably good character.
Yeah.
But I don't drink anymore, so I'd probably just be like, a little nit with my RNG, like, fucking raise.
I hear you, man. Yeah, I mean that sounds a lot like Lex. Like Lex would just come in and he was very quick to ham it up. He was just splashy as splashy could be, and that goes a long way, man. Like even if you're only doing it a little bit in the short run, like people like to see that you're willing to play big pots without much of a hand.
For sure, yeah. Like that's why I think fish like Plo too. It's just anything that gives them like a better chance of like coming out of the pot with a bunch of money is good for them.
For sure, I definitely agree with that.
We got another question, if you don't mind. Is do regs share action in live games? And obviously, like sometimes they do, but how do you think that might affect the dynamic of a game? And is that borderline cheating? Would be my further question.
So I think this happens the most frequently at like the high roller circuits. Just mainly due to the fact that
you mean within a tournament or in a cash game at that circuit? Okay.
Within the tournaments. So like the super high rollers, the 50k pluses. I think there's a lot of swapping that goes on. Now, to be fair, I think that it happens at a small enough percentage per person where it probably doesn't alter any decisions by anyone.
It alters the decision a lot, surely. Like if I had like 10% of a mate.
No, that's huge. I think swaps are like between like 1% and 3%.
What?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, you have to understand 3%. I don't want to fucking figure that shit out. I don't want to send fucking shit.
Well, I mean, 1 or 3% of a few $1 million is a lot of money.
You don't think there's two like pretty good players that are mates that are like just swapping 50-50? Surely that's happening.
I mean, I'm sure it's happening somewhere, but like in these super high rollers, like I imagine that the vast majority of guys don't have a huge chunk of themselves. Like, the Ikes of the world and the Volgasangs and whatnot, I'm sure that they're playing for like maybe half. Maybe more, I'm not really sure. I guess I shouldn't speak to it because I don't know for certain. But I would imagine that the average percentage that the majority of the field keeps is like sub 25. So swapping out maybe 10% amongst 4 or 5 guys is a good way to reduce variance without having much exposure to actually altering your strategy.
It's true, but like an added buff of any swap, say we just had 1% being swapped between us, is if we knew, we'd say we never spoke about it, but we knew the underlying theory of wanting us to each both succeed would mean that we're not going to rebluff each other. We're not going to open light into each other's blinds. These dynamics in the game affect things greatly and give both of us an advantage other people don't have. So even if the swap was very low, the theory and the additional advantage to swapping is pretty much cheating, would you not say?
I don't know if I would go so far as to say it's cheating, but it definitely is some added meta layer.
It's hard. It sucks because it's unavoidable. Say you're playing the World Series main, I'm like swapping half with a mate. We just happen to end up on the same table.
Right. Like, what can you do?
Could we not have swapped? Was it really uncool for us to swap? It's pretty standard to swap it, right? Like, we didn't really do anything wrong. But at the same time, like, I know and he knows that we don't want to fuck each other up. So we're, like, almost automatically not going to fuck with each other.
Right.
But we're the only ones who know it, maybe. Like, we don't want to be like, hello, everybody at the table, we're swapping 50-50. Now we all know this information. Like, maybe that's the best thing to do. But, like, you wouldn't do it.
The other thing is, like, imagine if say you didn't swap but you're just friends, there's still this meta dynamic where you guys still may soft play each other, not even meaning to, just based on the fact that like his game, he knows your game, and now suddenly the bottom of your ranges get cropped out. So yeah, there's all this stuff to like kind of parse through in the live environment that is a little weird, but it's happening online too, and it's probably more egregious online because you can't really police it, at least if
online you can, because you could see if a dude folded jacks pre in a spot that is like never a fold. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
That's pretty sus.
Yeah, that's actually very true. I guess I didn't really think of that. Well, how could you see though?
They have access to all of the hand histories. Like if someone was like, "Hey," no, the site. I'm saying.
Oh! So like if you were suspicious, could
and like for example, like they probably review every final table. So say you just happen to end up at the final table with a mate. This is the thing that's fucked though. So like you could fold jacks pre, like, but if it was kings and aces or top set and second set, there might be just a point where it's never a fold, and you could fold because you could just be on Skype like, fuck man, I've got a set, bro. Like I've got a set too, bro. Like what do we do, man? I don't know, man. I'm gonna check it back, man. But getting banned is even worse. I think like if that's the spot, you just have to get stacked either way. But like it's fucked. because you're allowed to swap, but then the things that happen later, you know, they're just so weird and out of control, basically.
Right.
And
right.
it does cost the other people at the table some amount of EV. You know, that you guys
there's
have
definitely
an
like
advantage.
some EV being swapped back and forth that it's difficult to decide. But you know, in the live cash round, it doesn't really happen too much. At least not quietly. I know the guys who are backed. I know who they're backed by. I know when they're playing with their backer, and it's not even really because they volunteer the information. It's just more so that like it's a small community. It doesn't take very long to figure out this guy who hasn't been playing bigger than 510 is now suddenly playing 200, 400. Who's putting him in? Well, let me look at his close network of friends. Who's the person who could likely be putting him in? And you know, just through deductive reasoning, you kind of start to understand. And I think for most, it's more important for them to continue to have a good spot than it is to kind of prey upon whatever small edges could be garnered through swaps or you know, having a horse in a game while you're playing in the game or whatever the case may be. I mean, you know, for years I've played with JRB and Roble together where they're openly
Does
a backer
Roble
backing.
seriously stake that guy? Like, really?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, it's the best game in the world, and
He seems like a losing player in it, though. Honestly,
well, he might be, but not always. And I think that's kind of the mirage of JRB. I think that's why he's so likable. He's one of the best losers I've ever come across, and I don't mean that in the sense that he's a
it's
loser.
fun to beat. Yeah,
exactly. He puts on a show. Whether he's winning or losing, and he makes it part of the spectacle of getting to play in his game, and it's incredible, man. He's built a bulletproof game for the better part of a decade now.
Bulletproof. Are you talking about JRB? I'm tripping now.
No. I don't mean like his style of play. I mean like the game he gets to play in.
Like just being in a good game, right?
Yeah, it's just phenomenal, and it's never really altered. You know, it's kind of like a recession-proof game. You know, the game keeps getting tougher elsewhere, but he continues to play in this berry patch.
Must be tilting for Good to See You, because he like has to hear these hand histories where this dude just like ruthlessly butchers it and loses like a massive pot.
I mean,
to a
he
fish.
sees them, right? Like you saw the 5-4 suited rip pre
5-3, yeah.
Or 5-3, yeah. It's like Roble's at the table just going.
He just snap jams it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like that's probably not even the worst hand. At least he had equity, you know. But
yeah,
I'm sure he plays like a ton of hands, like just fucked up, you know.
Yeah, but you know, ultimately they both do very well.
That's fair. Yeah,
it's a good situation for everybody.
Do you put anyone in a game? I guess you don't really want to get into that kind of thing. Yeah.
No, and I don't. I kind of like learned my lesson very young. It's just bad business
with mates
it's like
as
when
well.
You're dealing...
It's rough.
Yeah, I mean the level of trust I would have to have with somebody in order to cash stake them in a live environment, they would have to be family, and none of my family is good enough at poker to start playing 5-10 no limit uncapped. You know, so it's just one of those things where it's like the risk isn't worth the reward. And you know, there's just better ways to invest your money. Like as a youngster coming up, I guess it sounded like an old man, but when you don't know what else you're good at but this game, it becomes clear that you need to reinvest all of your time and money and resources into this game. But like as I'm now into my late 30s, about to cross into 40, it becomes a lot more important to invest in like passive income into other assets like mortgage or like a home or cryptocurrency or whatever you deem to be stable, that you could potentially earn some passive returns on moving forward. Like, you know, poker is what it is. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wish I played my cards a bit better. I could have done a lot more with my roll than buy something to eat, you know? And now I'm like back playing 200 no limit, trying to buy a house. You know, I live in the Philippines. I don't know if you know that's like not my home. Just like cheap living costs. I like basketball. They play a lot of basketball out here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my current sitch. I'm sort of just kicking around. Like the stream thing is sort of cool though, because it gives me some contact with like just, you know, people I'm used to hanging out with, I guess.
Are you planning on staying there for an extended period?
Well, I was considering getting my braces here. Like I want to get want to get braces, man. But like, I should
Yeah.
have done it as a kid. But like I said earlier, like I had too much control of my own life. Like little shit kid didn't want to get braces because it seemed annoying, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I'm 32. Like, yeah, get braces. So if I did that, that'd be a couple years. But I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I kind of wanted to go play like Live at the Bike or some shit. Like my mate was real keen. Like, try and take on the boys. You know, play in front of the cameras. You know, have some fun.
Sure.
That seemed cool. By the way, man,
Yeah.
could my mate go and play in your Solve for Why like Poker Out Loud if you do one of those? He's a sick player.
Yeah, for sure.
He told me I should
Would love to
ask,
have him.
and if I ask, he promised that he's going to implement the arch on his bench. Because I've been telling him his shoulders have been killing. I'm like, man, ever since I started the arch, bro, it's like gold. He's like, whatever, you know. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. If he's out here, for sure, tell him to hit me up.
So that's Vegas, just to confirm that you guys filmed that at.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this virus thing, who fucking knows what's going down anyway? But
Honestly, I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better, man. I think
For
we might be
sure, yeah.
looking at like 6 months of lockdown.
What's the temperature like in Vegas right now?
It's starting to get warmer. It's like mid-70s.
Okay. Because, like, where I am, I'm pretty sure there's something to do with the temperature. Like, if it's pretty fucking hot, like, there's a good chance that the virus just dies out.
I heard that that's a myth. Like they were saying
really?
that. Yeah, they were saying that it's kind of demonstrated its heat resistance. Like, I'm not sure which region of the world. Maybe they were talking about Iran or somewhere. But basically, they were saying that it's regularly 100+ degrees, and the virus is still transmitting no problem.
Okay. Well, that
Fingers
goes out the
crossed,
window.
though.
That goes out the window. Because it's pretty hot where I am. There's like 20 cases right now in my city.
Yeah.
Airport's shut, so I can't leave anyway. So I'm not sweating it. I figure I don't really know what to think anymore though. You hear this, you hear that. I don't fucking know. Do you know anything about this?
I just know that you're not in a high risk group. Neither am I. And honestly, the biggest net negative outcome of all this is how much it's going to exhaust our resources. Like it's going to be a big economic decline. Not really something that we have to worry about health wise. I don't think.
Yeah, I was shocked by the Bitcoin effect. Like, if anything, I could imagined. Like, but now that we've had this downswing, I feel like there might be some sort of panic buy. What did the Fed do recently? Something stupid, right? Like, made 0% interest rates, something like that.
Yeah, they did. It was some sort of 0% interest rate. I can't recall off the top of my head like what exactly it was for. It was either for. I don't know if it was on any investments or specific investments. Anyway, basically they're just like providing relief
Okay.
through the lack of interest rates. But yeah, I don't know. I expect Bitcoin to bounce. I just don't know enough. So maybe that's just more like wishful thinking.
Yeah, it seems like an okay time to long, but it, like you said, it could get better before it gets worse, which means there could be like a real panic sell.
Yeah,
I just don't think it could ever like go sub 3K because there's just too many people incentivized in the long game to be picking it up at that point. Like, I can imagine the panic selling, but like surely it doesn't go below that. That's just my guess, but who knows?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's one of those things though where it's like if it got to as low as 1K, I would have a real hard time not just
Going
shoveling money at it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I would be doing so with like a guilty conscience, thinking that like
Yeah.
I'm buying something.
You're
that's going
Bobby
to zero.
Axelrod if you've seen that show Billions. Do you know that show?
Oh yeah.
You're profiting off the 9/11.
Yeah.
The master.
Yeah, that
How
was
did you
the-
build
that
your
was-
company, sir? Well, it was off from the ashes of your grandparents.
That would feel very dirty being right, but I was just saying more so that like if it fell as low as 1K, I wouldn't have any confidence that it wasn't going to zero next.
Oh, really? Okay. I just don't think 1K would be possible. But yeah, man, I would stop buying fucking toilet paper and tuna, bro, and I'd just be all in.
Yeah.
All fucking in. Cash out all my poker money. Just fuck it, YOLO.
Yeah, you gotta gamble on something, right?
Yeah. You gotta put your whole roll on the table at least once a year. In some sense.
Oh man, I hope to stop living by that maxim at some point.
Oh man, you will. But then they'll make a 5K, 10K game, and then you'll be in trouble.
Yeah, right. I mean, there's always a way to get the whole roll on the table. It just doesn't necessarily have to be a poker game.
So what are you doing like day to day gambling wise? Like it's locked down at the moment? Or
Yeah, right now it's nothing. I just got back from Austin where we were like hosting their 5th anniversary celebration. Fucking amazing, man. We played 2 streamed games that were supposed to be 5-5 and 5-10. The first night we went 5-10, 20, 40, 80, 160, 320, 640.
I saw
3
your
different
boy
times.
Christian got it in against
Yeah.
some dude with just like nothing or some shit. Like he had ace king
It was
against I don't know 2 cards.
5-3 off.
5-3 off. Yeah.
Yeah, they played a. I think they got it all in for 14,000 each,
Yeah.
and I believe at that point we had the 40 on. So just a casual 28K pot with ace king versus 5-3 off.
Yeah.
That was the kind of game we were playing in. It was a lot of fun. But as soon as we got back, the whole city just like went on lockdown.
Mm.
So yeah, it's been a weird feeling out process. It's been kind of nice for me because I'm swamped with fucking work that I would like to get caught up on. I'm way behind on content creation. I'm definitely looking to like kind of expand the business in a couple different ways.
You should
So like
you should do some online related stuff, man. Just start shoveling money at your boy the T. He knows how to play online.
At who?
I'm talking about myself. Just my nickname's Khaki T.
Oh, right. TEE. I get it now. Yeah. It's definitely not outside the realm of possibility, especially like if live isn't necessarily coming back anytime soon.
Yeah. For sure.
That's kind of a scary proposition because I do think that there's some sort of, I guess, sensitivity to live poker where if it's gone long enough, people will forget about it, and that worries the fuck out of me. Because like if all that loose liquidity that
surely a lot of the
exists,
people playing in Vegas are like tourists, though. People are going to be fucking keen as to get back to Vegas after it's all good.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm being overreactionary because it's not like I don't see this happening for like 24 months where we're just on forever lockdown.
Yeah, they'd be
6
playing it
months
pretty
is-
bad if it was like that.
Yeah, I think we'll get over like the 6-month barrier of whatever it's going to be for us to kind of see the other side of this. But in the meantime, like I just don't know how much people are going to be looking to train for a game that they can't play. So that worries me about the
People are at
prospects of the
home though; they got
business.
nothing to do. This is a good time for people to be consuming content.
It is. It's a great time, but I think people tend to lean on free stuff. People train towards what they can be actionable,
True.
right?
Yep.
Like it's very rare that somebody who is thinking about going on a diet starts studying diets prior to actually making the next step.
I
Same
feel
thing
you.
with
I
like
reckon you should make some videos playing on that WSOP site. Then that's probably something to do.
that's
Maybe
why I
maybe
was,
affiliate with them or some shit. I don't know if you can.
yeah, that was why I was getting set up to stream. They're doing a big series over the next couple weeks. I think that as this starts to run a little bit more, it'll give me an opportunity to kind of put out some more free content, maybe play a little bit more online where I never actually play, see if I can hold my own, that kind of deal. But yeah, for the time being, like it's lockdown mode. There's nothing going on. I played pickleball last night, which was great to finally get out of the house a little bit.
Pickle or pick up?
Pickle.
What's that?
You got to try it, man. It's a great game.
Okay.
It is.
I like a game.
It's like a hybrid of tennis and ping pong, basically.
Okay.
So you're playing on like a smaller tennis court, and you're using paddles that don't have like instead of a racket that you would use for tennis ball, you use more of a paddle, like an oversized ping pong paddle.
Okay.
And what's effectively a wiffle ball.
Can you spin it or no?
Yeah, for sure. And then the rules are pretty simple. Like it's just like tennis. You have to serve cross court, but you play doubles. Most people play doubles anyway. And then there's this small, like 3-foot area in front of the net that you're not allowed to step into.
Ooh.
So it prevents people from just smashing the ball and not being able to return it. But it's a lot of fun, man. It's definitely like geared towards more of an old man sport, I guess.
Badminton, man. I played a lot of doubles. It's a good sport. It sounds kind of a little bit like that.
Yeah, definitely a little bit like that. Only with the net on the ground instead of above you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, very similar. I think one-on-one pickleball would be like pretty, a pretty intense workout. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I like every sport, basically any team sport, anyway. 1v1 sports, I guess you just get a little bit too tilted at yourself if you like me. It's just a bit
that's why I could never take up golf.
Yeah,
Golf is just like too much of a mind fuck for me.
It's a PvE sport as well. Like, you're not really playing against anyone. Like, they're
Right.
there. Maybe you talk to
Yeah.
them, but like,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
no interaction within the game. At least like tennis, you're playing against the guy, you're making a read on him or whatever.
That's
Golf, it
true.
doesn't matter what your fucking opponent does. You just get it in the hole.
Yeah, I think that that's the biggest thing that I had a trouble with is that it's not even a one versus one sport. It's
Yeah.
you versus the course.
Yeah.
And like that's just too much for me, man. It's like I need to be able to at least beat somebody, right? Like I don't want to try to best my own best score. I'm not trying to compete against myself. Like that's a shitty metric to measure on, I think. Although I guess it's kind of
A lot
a
of
bit
people
of an
do that. I don't know
analogy
if you
for
know what
life.
speed running is, but you might have played video games back when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you played like Zelda. Like, what's a video game that you played as a kid?
Yeah, I played Zelda, the Mario Brothers.
So like, what these dudes do, they do it on Twitch as well. They play that game like original Mario, and they try to get the absolute fastest possible time, and they like compete, and like everybody across the world plays, and they have all these like the best possible strategy that involves like cheating in the game and like all kinds of bugs and shit, and they just take it to like the furthest possible level that it can be taken. But some of the games are like 2 hours long, so it's like they make this one mistake that's like 80% through the game, and it's like, ah, fuck, instantly have to quit and restart. It's so sick. Like, so I agree. Like, I don't like that as a idea activity. You're really competing against nothing, and like if you win, like fine, maybe there are other people who respect that, but it's not a big field. So I don't know. It doesn't feel like you're winning much, and it's a lot of painful grinding. But respect to them for being able to do it.
Yeah, it just seems very strange to me. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm not entirely sure what the end goal is. Like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Being number one, baby, in the whole world.
I get it.
In your very small category.
I guess I get it. It makes some sense to me, but
yeah,
it sounds
no money either. Like, at least like other shit has money, you know.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
So what happened with the baseball then, man? Like, did you get close or?
Not really. I just was never talented enough. It was one of those things where like, my heart and desire for the game well superseded what my natural ability was, and no matter how hard I worked, it wasn't going to overcome. Like I was a pitcher, I was left-handed. Those two things are very coveted.
That's good. Yeah.
But I topped out at like 84 miles an hour, which is a fucking joke. Like it's
if you're a pitcher, you have to have a fastball. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, I mean, major league quality fastball is going to be 90 to 92 bare minimum. And it's like I'm topping out at 84, 85. So it's like I was exactly what I ended up being, which is a Division II college pitcher who did okay for himself.
That sounds alright.
And I was very self-critical, thinking that like it was my fault I came up short, and like I could have done more to throw harder, or I could have worked on control and done other things to get people out. But it's like at the end of the day, you're just restricted by what you're born with, and maybe there was some sort of iteration where I could have ultimately ended up throwing 90 plus, but those resources definitely weren't available to me through the life that I lived. So like I didn't have the proper training or the proper coaching or whatever the case may be. And as it was, I was never going to throw harder than 84. It's pretty shitty.
I guess that was a depressing point for you, quitting that. But you found poker around that time anyway, so give and take.
Yeah, I was super lucky in that regard because it probably would have. I was way too emotionally invested in baseball, and I think I would have had a really difficult time transitioning into anything else outside of poker. So it was just incredibly lucky that at that time I was 2 years into being a winning poker player, and by the time I graduated college, I had like a 25K roll, and it was like, okay, this isn't the end of the world. I don't have to go be a computer scientist. I don't have to do all of these things that seem like they're going to be a miserable existence. Like I can still play this game and be pretty good at it and possibly make a decent living at it. So, yeah, luckily my hardships in poker didn't happen until I would say, seasoned enough to be confident that I was winning long run. And by the time that occurred, I had enough support to kind of like get me over the hump.
And when did like the idea of making a business to do with poker or a business in general, I guess, sort of come to you or take off or any of that stuff?
So I guess like it was kind of by happenstance, but also maybe a byproduct of what happened to me in baseball, where once I started playing the big game and getting to play high stakes, it it felt like the same thing that happened in baseball, where it was like, well, what's next? Because I don't know how I'm going to move. Like I don't know how I'll ever move past this. Basically, there was no bigger game to play. I wasn't suddenly gonna like I didn't have enough of myself where I was suddenly gonna become like a deca millionaire through playing this game or anything like that. It's like, okay, well, I'm at the pinnacle now of my sport, at least through the path that I chose. Obviously, there were other pinnacles. Like I could have become a super high roller, or I could have tried to scale to high stakes online. But like that wasn't the path that I was pursuing, and those weren't my skill sets. So it's like I'm pretty limited by again what my skill sets are, and this is kind of the peak. So what the fuck is next? And it's like, well, I have financial freedom. I have a lot of extra time on my hands because I'm only playing like 30 or 40 sessions a year at this point. So I'm really only putting in like maybe 800 hours to actual gameplay. It's like, well, I should do something productive with that time. And I had been working with Christian for a couple of years at that point. It was like I'm really into the teaching element of things. I really enjoy writing. I really enjoy public speaking, and basically trying to help people optimize in a general sense. So why not start a business under that framework and begin in the arena that I feel most confident in, which is poker. And then hopefully, if things go well, and I find kind of the playbook to build a business out of this methodology of training from ground zero all the way to closer to more optimal, then I'll be able to kind of like move into other markets and provide that same service through a problem solving capacity. And by and large, it's went pretty well. Like I do think that we're on the path to scaling out into other markets, leaning on other professionals of those markets to lend their expertise and figure out a way to kind of cut out our slice of the pie.
What markets do you mean? Like different games, different forms of like gambling, like, or do you mean like different people that may like poker?
Um, Both, I guess. So I think first and foremost, it would be. I think the most logical lateral move is things that extend out from the poker lifestyle. So be it other forms of gambling, other forms of gaming, or just natural interests to poker players, such as fitness, nutrition,
Yeah,
things that kind of coincide with
being a young
having a
man
more
or
yeah,
middle-aged man.
being a more optimal version of yourself.
Hmm.
Um,
I like that
I
buzz.
think like yeah, I'm kind of hoping that like what will ultimately occur is we will create a platform where experts from those other fields, be it esports or DFS or fitness, nutrition, whatever, will want to host their content with us, and we'll basically just take a small surcharge for getting them an audience. So the short term goal would be to be like a curator of sorts. The long term goal would be to figure out a way to build this out to scale where we're able to not just get an expert, but like the best experts and basically crowdsource where this information is coming from and ensuring that like the optimization path is as clear and concise as it possibly can be.
Sounds pretty solid, man. I do definitely like for my own channel something along the lines of, I don't know, life direction and self-help, any kind of self-improvement stuff appeals to me. I'm on my
Yeah,
own path though. Like I don't feel like I have the goods to work with. Like I've got some good ideas, but in terms of walking the walk, I haven't really done everything that I want to do. So I'm
yeah,
sort of just on my journey myself. But I really like that buzz. I think that's a good idea. And being like
yeah.
a
It's
larger community that offers all of those type of things, and maybe you get some people from here going to there, like it's all at the one place. It makes sense to try and build as big a community as you can with like-minded people that are looking to improve themselves and maybe make money playing poker, or maybe make money doing something else. That yeah, it
yeah.
sounds like a good idea. I also like the name of the business. Where did you come up with that one? Was it your choice? Or?
Yeah. So whenever I went broke in 2012, I spent a lot of time just kind of like down the rabbit hole of self-actualizing, trying to get to the root of like why I keep finding success and then fucking up royally. And
Addicted to the
I
pain.
kind of yeah, a little bit. I kind of hate the term like self-help. Like I think it's a bit of a bullshitty industry. Um, but I did like spend a lot of time like examining thought leaders of different industries and kind of like trying to get to the root of like where all their successes came from. And one of the guys I gravitated towards the most was Simon Sinek, who is famous for a book that he wrote called Start with Why. And a lot of his approach, it was applicable in a general life sense, but it was geared towards businesses. And the vast majority of it was basically centered around problem solving. And what he was trying to demonstrate was that for a very long time, pre-industrial revolution, we examined problems in a very short-sighted point of view. So our natural inclination would be to identify what the problem was, and then figure out how we were going to solve it. And oftentimes that just leads to a band-aid type of solution, right? You just find the most readily available solution, whether it's the most optimal one or not, doesn't matter to you. You're just searching for anything.
Not looking at the
Uh,
cause.
Right. And instead, he took a root cause approach where he said, like, why does this problem exist? And putting why to the forefront to me was very interesting. So when I was thinking about it from the standpoint of, you know, both in poker and then also scaling this thing out to, in a general sense, solve for why like was a nice play on words of kind of like uniting math and optimization with the idea of root cause analysis.
You love a good adjective, man. I feel like I need to ask you, like, hey, what does that mean? Like a lot of the time, I'm much more
Yeah,
simple with my words. Guess
I get
I've
a lot
never
of criticism
finished school or
for it.
some shit, so it's probably that.
No, it's nothing like that. It's I don't know why I speak the way I speak. I didn't used to. I grew up in a relatively poor area with the vast majority of my friends not really being geniuses or anything of the sort. And I spent a lot of my time like dumbing down my words and really being mindful of never speaking over someone. But there's something about the poker industry that it's so intellectual in nature and it's so competitive that I think I kind of just like trained myself to ensure that I was always talking at my peers level. Um, and that's probably not the best approach now, but
It sounds good, you know.
yeah, I'm not trying to like sound a certain way or anything like that. I just never wanted to be thought of as somebody who couldn't keep up whenever I felt like I was, holding back or something of that nature. Um,
Mm.
and now it's kind of like led me to a point where I may be losing some of my audience because the exact opposite's happening, right? Like now I've kind of propelled myself to a point where I'm choosing the fancier adjective every single time just by
Right.
default, right? It's not like I'm sitting here searching for words in my head. I kind of like speak the way I write now, where in the past those used to be two separate voices.
Mm. And that's another really fascinating topic, like the idea of having a thought and thinking the words. There's like a bit of a lapse in time between the two things, almost like you have an instinct, right, for a thought, and then in
Yeah,
some fashion it becomes basically like words in your head.
right.
So yeah, I don't know. That's just a whole other topic that I could go into, but maybe I won't.
Yeah, I think in a big way I've kind of married that process where that filter that exists, or at least used to exist for me, where I would kind of like run the thought through my filter first to ensure what I'm saying is appropriate or um, being communicated properly or whatever. Somewhere along the lines, I just developed like this self trust where it was just like, just say it, like you know, eliminate the filter. It doesn't matter. And I think in that process, it got me to a point where now I'm not being very careful with the adjectives I choose, and sometimes I speak too freely or I misuse words, and it's problematic, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I don't use particularly big words or anything like that, but I'll often misspeak when I talk. But I feel like because your intent becomes obvious, like when you're kind of honest and not filtering
Mm,
yourself, people sort of get what you meant anyway. Like often someone will say to me, "You meant
yeah,
that, right?" I'm like, "Oh fuck, I thought I said that,"
yeah,
And people kind of
I
get
do
it,
that a
even
lot.
though I say it wrong sometimes.
Yeah, I get less credit because oftentimes what I'm doing is mixing up two big words that are close to one another.
Right.
And so it becomes one of those things where it's like, oh, you think you're so fancy you can't even use the words right.
Yeah,
And it's
dude.
just like,
The
yeah, I
classic
deserve
guy in
that.
chat who gets you on the grammar, you know.
Yeah. The
Hard to
grammar
beat
police
him.
have a field day with me.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. I mean, the business sounds pretty good. I like that young guy you got going in there. He's kind of an interesting one. I would feel like giving him advice. Like if he was my young guy, I'd be like, "Oh, bro, you got to do this. You got to do that. Come
Chris?
on, man. What are you doing?" Yeah,
You talking about Chris?
I think so. He's like 21, I believe. He's got curly hair.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. He's great in a lot of ways. But it's weird because he's so mature for his age and so immature for his age. Like he's so 21 in some regards, but he's like way older than that mentally in a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
So it's this weird like back and forth where he'll say something that's just like insanely entitled or really immature in some sort of capacity, and we're just shaking our heads like, "You're so fucking 21, man. You just don't get it." But then he'll just like come out with like this profoundly deep comment about like I don't know, whatever. I don't have any great examples off the top of my head, but
I feel you, man. The next generation, they're going to be bigger and stronger and smarter and all that.
it's true. It's true. It's
They're getting
very
old.
difficult to it's difficult to surround yourself with a spectrum of ages. When at any given time they can act your age, but also can just be like 15 years your junior. Where it's just like, all right, well, I forget sometimes that you're actually just still a child.
Yeah, young guys are interesting. I mean, because like if you see part of yourself in them, like that little arrogant fuck, you're like, you're such a little shit, mate. Come on.
Yeah.
But then you see them like just like living what you were doing. You kind of want to help them, be like, hey man, But I think the thing that sets me off with a lot of young people, although that guy doesn't strike me this way, your mate Chris, is like if they're not respectful, like just of the fact that you've been through shit and they've been through nothing. I'm not really willing to like take it to the next level in terms of a friendship or anything. I find it too insulting. Like you got to respect people that are older than you, man. Like you don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely a big part where I get shut down very easily. Like even going back to the dating thing, dating people who are younger, it becomes very difficult whenever like arguments form over something that like I've clearly experienced, and I'm not speaking from a soapbox. You know what I mean? It's just like, listen, like you haven't had this happen yet, but like you need to be safe about this type of thing.
But they're so convinced that their opinion of what they'll do is just like this, and they're like, yeah, but I thought that too, and then it happened, and it wasn't like that at all, They're like, exactly, shut up.
Exactly. Right. But then from the same standpoint, it's like I too often forget what it's like to be younger and expect way too much, like particularly of Chris, where it's just like I'll forget what it was like to be 21. So like he'll say something arrogant or something slightly entitled, and I'll just immediately like be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" You know what I mean? But then I think back to how big of an asshole I was at 21, where it's like if you would have heard me, or if I had been around somebody 16 years older than me at that age, they would have been smacking me upside the head because I thought my shit didn't stink. I thought I was the best at everything I did. I didn't have a humble gene in my body. So it is a weird kind of like back and forth, I guess, where you constantly have to kind of remind yourself like, hey, there are phases to life. Not everybody's all caught up.
For sure, man. And I think like getting out of the being a young guy phase, like I feel like I've sort of recently come out of being a young guy or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really happen until you sort of have that full understanding that, you're just a little bit, you're not much either way.
Yeah.
And you got to show respect to people, especially if they're older than you. And you got to like try and be empathetic to other people's situations either way. I'm not saying you have to be a good guy. Like I'm quite an asshole to some people. Like if I think that this guy's being a dick in a conversation, I might try and put him on the grill just a little bit, something like that. Yeah. But in general, I'm out there, I'm thinking like, how is this going to feel for that person if I do this? How is that going to do with this? Should I say this to this dude? I don't really know him that well. I'm trying to just empathize with whoever's around me. And once I felt like I did that, everybody around me sort of treats me with respect. Like older guys, doesn't matter. Like everybody will listen to what I'm talking about, and I try to do the same, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a really great perspective to have. I think that like the second that you're able to pause for 1 second and truly like put yourself in the other person's shoes, that empathy just comes natural, right? So like if every single time I have the inclination to just kind of like wag my finger at Chris a little bit, I take a second and stop, and I just think to myself like, "Hey, what would you have done at 21?" You know, what I mean, it's very easy for me to just empathize and be like, "Oh man, all right, listen, like let's take another approach to this and kind of like
Mm.
show him the humble ways through a different lens."
It's an interesting one because, like, the way it's sort of worked with like young guy, older guy, it's like the older guys kind of beat the ego out of the younger guy until he
Yeah,
becomes mature. Whereas in
yeah,
this day and age, people kind of leave each other alone a bit more. There's less like hazing. You know, you come to work for someone, they don't like strip your clothes off and like laugh at your little dick or something and just like totally humiliate you. You know?
sure, yeah, that's very true. Which I think is much healthier for what it's worth.
Don't know. We're kind of used to it. You know, it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see
I
how it
guess so.
plays out. Like, there's definitely a lot of like, how is this generation going to pan out? Like, nobody hit their kids. You know, are they all going to be annoying when they're older?
Right,
Because our parents
right.
used
Yeah,
to
I
all
think that's
get hit,
valid.
and they're pretty fucking good people. And they're not hitting us, so we're kind of annoying. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll take annoying if we are productive. My bigger fear, I think,
It's hard
is
to
that
tell how productive we are since everything is just so insane right now. Like, we've got all the best
right.
technology that's ever existed. You know, could be
Yeah,
variance, could be skill. Who knows? Sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, I think that's very fair. I guess like along those lines, my fear would be that we're annoying in a very entitled way, and that entitlement um, kind of forces people out of action. So I would be very concerned if suddenly everybody just like starts believing that the world owes them something, and we just lose all motivation to continually progress society forward. My greatest fear, I guess, would be a soft society. And I'm not saying we need to be our grandparents' generations that were hardened by the Great Depression and things of that nature, but it's like we need a little bit of struggle in order to have some sort of perspective that it's worth getting out of bed in the morning, and not woe is me. I want it all to end because some little thing didn't go my way.
Yeah, there's a lot of snowflakes in this generation for sure. Or whatever.
Yeah, I,
In
I
this
mean,
time, I guess they're of all ages, really, the snowflakes. It sucks.
I think it's kind of like the pendulum effect where we were so extreme one way where we were so insensitive to trauma for so many decades, right? We just brushed it under the rug and said like, "Hey, deal with it." Until eventually the dam broke and people were just like, "I have PTSD, like I'm not a very good version of myself. Suicide rate went way up and all this other stuff." So now the pendulum's swinging the whole other way where it's like we have to be sensitive to all trauma, no matter how big or small.
I
And
don't
it's
know
like,
what the
well,
political reason for pushing that narrative is. I don't know like how it started or why it's there, but we should get rid of that shit like ASAP, man. Like if you're a guy,
yeah,
you just deal with shit. People call you a name, you're like, fuck whatever, right? We deal with shit. And
yeah,
look, if you look at like who's stronger out of like these complaining snowflake types and just like a regular dude, the regular dude's been through enough like obviously there's some serious trauma that's separate to this, but most people are just complaining about nothing, you know?
yeah.
We're gonna take that shit out. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
It's pissing me
I
off.
think there's some validity to that in the sense that um, I think that for a long time people believed that trauma was unique to them. But if we define trauma as like physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, poverty, or some other type of hardship that shapes who you are in some sort of capacity, let's say like loss, like death of a loved one, whatever. Um, that's going to happen to everybody at some point in their life. One of those things. Now, if you're really lucky, it won't be physical abuse, mental abuse, or verbal abuse, and it'll only be poverty or the loss of a loved one. But nobody's impervious to some sort of trauma impacting them and shaping the way that they are. So I think it's less of stigmatizing the trauma and saying like just shut up and deal, or even going the whole other way and saying like get a therapist, get full counseling, like have somebody parse through the trauma with you and process it and everything else. I think it's a lot more of just like destigmatizing it and saying like, look, we're all going to go through some shit. That's how life works. Here's the protocols necessary to deal with loss. Here's the protocols necessary to deal with poverty. And then here's the help that we should seek anytime we're unfortunate enough to fall on the wrong side of abuse. And I think like if we systematically approach it from that way, mental health as a whole just like drastically increases. right? Rather than like kind of like putting people into these labeled boxes where it's like, oh, you're abused, so you obviously have this damage from all this trauma that you went through that you're going to have to deal with, and I don't want that to be my problem. Or, oh, you're poor, so until you get out of that struggle, you're not really worthy of kind of stepping into my shoes, who's on a platform, or whatever the case may be. It's just like, if we just recognize that this happens to pretty much everybody across the board and almost nobody gets to avoid it throughout life, then we kind of do get to lessen the blow whenever it happens to us individually.
It's a lot of things. I didn't want to interrupt. Like, I had a couple of thoughts about it halfway through. I guess the main thing, I was just thinking slightly different topic, was mainly the people that are like using social media platforms to kind of come together and scream loud and irritating opinions that they should just try and like not fucking have. And the fact that they can do that and get like support from these other people who are like identifying as, I'm somebody that has this fucking problem, and like feel like less alone, and like there's less demand on them to improve themselves because they have all these other people who can relate and sympathize and give them a bit of dopamine, I guess is what's going on for them. So I had an issue with that kind of stuff, but like actual mental health shit, for sure, like, deal with it whatever way seems appropriate. But I think for some people,
I totally agree with you.
Minimizing
I think
it can
the problem
help.
I think the problem is we've lost that line because of social media, because of signaling, because of all this public outcry. We've now lost the line where something is actually traumatic, or you're just belly aching in a public domain where people are going to give you that sympathy.
It's annoying shit, eh? I'm kind of new to social media. Like, I don't have many followers on Twitter and stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to get in or not. It looks kind of... I'm umming and ahhing, There's reasons to do it, like in terms of like what I'm trying to do with like my stream and shit like that. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I don't want to play that game. I don't want to be checking my phone all the time. Like, fuck.
I mean, you don't have to. I'm pretty systematic about the way I go about it, but to me, it's an extension of business in a lot of ways. Twitter maybe a little bit. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I do take like some personal pleasure out of both Twitter and Instagram, but in different ways. Like, Twitter's a nice 280 character spot to kind of exhaust a thought, and you hope that it resonates with some people. And if it doesn't, who cares? It just disappears into the ether. And Instagram's kind of an opportunity to be a little bit creative, see what you can do with a camera, see what you can do with posting and things of that nature. But as far as like feeling obligated to your fans or your followers or whatever the case may be, you don't have to. I think people really appreciate authenticity, and that's probably why you have such a following on Twitch. You're a pretty raw guy. You're not out here filtering much, just speaking your mind, and it seems like people really enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I probably shit talk too many people. Like, in the moment, I'd say I have a bad habit of, while playing poker, just sort of trashing my opponents. Like, for me, they're all just enemies. Like, and then once someone gets to know me and I know them, I was kind of relating to what you said earlier. Like, you kind of almost don't want to know people. Like, I'd rather just have my bad habit of being like, oh, you fucking called with that pre-flop, fucking whatever. Like, have my little vent. I don't think it's in any way good for me. I'm simply just so used to doing it because when I played all my hands, I was still that young, arrogant, entitled dude. And I really felt those things. I really felt like I was just way better. And when I lost, it was fucking bullshit. And when you won, it was just another standard day. So in terms of emotional swings, poker was working. That's kind of why I quit. It's just poker seemed bad. Like, if you win, it's like whatever standard. If you lose, it's like, this is fucking bullshit. If you're going to downswing, it's like, where's the fucking justice in this game? That's kind of how it feels. But
it's
nowadays,
not a meritocracy.
Yeah. Nowadays, I guess I don't know. I'm more questioning in myself. Like, I know I have so much to learn that, like, every time I'm like losing a bit, I'm like, man, I must be playing like shit. I play like one spot bad. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm playing terrible today. Like, someone asked me how I'm doing. I'm like, dude, sucking dick over here. Really, no clue.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go the whole other way. Like, you need that confidence to actually carry you through.
I haven't found the balance yet, I don't think.
I think watching Gelfond is like fascinating, because to me he's like the most even keel human.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but he's just
he
so
seems
even
that way, right? Like, so even kill, and then fuck, he's on mega tilt. And I was like, whoa, bro, like, this dude fronting on the fucking You know, being like no opinion man. You know, he's on sick tilt. He's like three betting just whatever the fuck. Like,
yeah. But like, if you watch like his actual videos where he's playing and kind of doing commentary, not for the heads up
very
challenge, but just
no emotion. Yeah.
yeah, and it's really great because it kind of demonstrates like what's necessary to think through a spot without emotions invoked.
Yeah. His state of
And
mind seemed
obviously,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, and obviously a heads up match that's going on for weeks upon weeks, like that's impossible to stay even keeled. But I think as a general, this is what I'm going to do for my job kind of approach. He's got to be like one of the best at providing an example of like what we should be looking to do.
Yeah, man, I absolutely agree with that. And then after that, he went on the sick tilt, and I was like, whoa, I guess everyone's just fucking human.
Yeah.
Because if somebody was like, man, do you know anyone with a good mental game? I'd be like, fuck, Phil Galfond, dude. He's fucking just chilling. He doesn't care. Because back in the day, he took a bunch of sick shots with his roll. Like, he was quite laggy with his bankroll management.
Yeah.
Because he was like, he was sort of like me, just had like a shit fucking car. Like, didn't really spend money on much. And so he was like, well, I got a milli. I could take a shot at 300, 600. Like, if I lose like a bunch of buy-ins, I guess I'll move back down. Loses like half his roll. It's like, I guess that sucks, but we're on plan. It's okay. You know, like, I was like, oh shit, this guy, look at him go. I'd be like fucking quitting for weeks, like on a degenerate drinking trip or something.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though. It's like when you are smart enough to come at it with a plan where you effectively model out what the worst case scenario could be. And you say like, okay, when I find myself in this scenario, here's the evacuation plan. He just does it, right? He just implements. And even in the Galfond challenge, like him recognizing that he emotionally wasn't stable enough to continue and just paying the fine. And then coming back and crushing.
I mean,
Smart.
I'll give my opinion on that. Like, I don't know how he's done recently, but like either way, it's pretty obvious that he's losing in that matchup. I don't think he should have continued the game, but I think like
he's cut his deficit in half. He's won every session but one since.
I've seen a lot of the hands. I'd say it's kind of obvious that he ran sims where his only bet size inputs were like 25% and full pot. And so he, based on that, he just always bets 25%. But that's just like not good inputs. You should be checking like, is a half pot good on this board? Is a 75% good on this board? He just simplified things too hard. You're not going to beat a dude who knows how to play heads up like Plo if you just have like one random simple bunch of sims that you ran. Like you're not going to win. And that's what it really looked like to me, is because he's 3-betting too loose. Like he's not playing proper ranges, and then he just c-bets like 100%, 25% of 3-bet pot. It's like, wow, he's just losing so much money. He should never make. If he came back, it would be sick run good. It would be like insane.
Yeah, I would be interested if you saw like I guess some of the more recent sessions to see if he's made any corrections that you think are.
I haven't paid attention to it, no. So I mean, there's a chance, but look, at the end of the day, like his opponent has been like a good player for a long time. Like maybe he did like 2 weeks of study max, but he's a busy life. He's a businessman. He's a fucking dad. Like there's no way that he spent enough time like solving hands to improve his game.
No, I totally agree.
I wish him well. Like, I hope he makes the comeback. Like, absolutely. But I don't think it was a good decision. I get it in the sense that business-wise, like, this is why I think it tilted him. Like, because there was so much on the line for him. It wasn't the money. It was, like, the reputation of, like, whether his coaching is worth money is on the line. The reputation of, like, whether he's worth, you know, like, is he this character that we should look up to, basically? Like, I can imagine all of that, like, putting a lot more pressure on. When he starts losing a bunch, right? He wasn't down that much at this point. He'd post a graph or some shit on Twitter, and it's like, this is how sick I'm running, like, relative curve to, like, what's possible. It's like, that's weird that you're, like, making this public sort of complaint. That didn't seem, like, in line with his standard just even keel mentality that you were talking about. And so I was like, wow, that's weird that this guy's doing this. Then I looked into the hands. I was like, fuck, he's playing, like, terribly, what it looks like to me anyway. This guy I know,
think
Jay
he kind of
Nandez,
acknowledged that, you know, like from that point moving forward, his mental, I guess, like emotional stability was continually declining, and he did just like pay to take the time off. And you know, whether it's just run good or him studying his opponent better or whatever the case may be, for him to then come back and go on like a 400k upswing is pretty noteworthy.
It's nice. I like it. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you know, I think at the end of the day, like it's clear that somebody who puts in way more hours of study is going to have a pretty big edge in this arena. But I think it's also a little dismissive to forget that, like, you know, even with time away, Gelfond is and always has been completely elite. So if anybody can close the gap, I think that like he's probably more capable than most.
Yeah, and like another side of that coin is that Venny rage quit at least one of the sessions, so it's not like he's not emotional.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure he quit a session early. You're only allowed to do it like once without paying fine on it
Yeah.
or some shit like that.
Yeah,
So that was one of
I
Phil's
know.
big upswings. I think it was the first. So, you know, the dude could be out there on sick tilt, like, how am I fucking losing now? I thought I had this done, you know?
Right. Yeah,
The turnaround could
that's pretty
happen,
dope.
and look, it's really good for the viewers. Like, if he like makes a comeback, it's awesome, and I'm certainly rooting for him. But I don't know. Business wise, maybe I guess he should play it out. It just seemed like things will probably only get worse if he continued the match. That was my prediction. I'm happy to be wrong, but it's a tough spot either way. Like just quitting him and then going and playing Bill Perkins, it's not like a good look, you know?
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, and you know, I don't think that it was outside of his realm of risk, right? So it's like if ultimately he loses 3 million and that's like the worst outcome that could possibly happen, that's shitty, but I'm sure that he planned for such a scenario taking place.
Yeah, because apparently his wife is super rich. But that's not true. That's just a joke. It's just like people would post that because it's like a Google result, apparently. Right. Is that she's worth hundreds of millions, and people are like, oh, no wonder he doesn't care too much.
Right.
It's just a silly joke.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
Nah, apparently not.
She is a boss, though. I played a lot with her in the big game. She's a blast to play with. Cool. Definitely one of the more fun characters that has come through the door.
Who would you rate as like number one female player? Just, or maybe that's a bad question. What about just like a female player that you reckon is like a sicko, like that you played with or some shit?
I
like Miss Finland.
I've never played with her. Wait, are you saying like strictly poker?
Yeah, but I was joking because Miss Finland might not be a good player, but she just bluffed some dude off trips. It was funny.
Yeah, Ronnie Barta. I remember that. I've seen that clip many times. I think
Annette 15 would have been my pick, but she's long since quit.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've ever had the luxury of playing with her, to be honest.
Chrissy B is probably the top chick that I can think of these days. She used to be a Supernova Elite grinder as well.
I've actually been playing with Chrissy since like 03, so I kind of mentioned earlier the Turning Stone. She was a part of that crew, so I'm pretty sure she was in like Toronto, Canada at the time, and she would make that trek down. So we used to grind like 5-5, 5-10 together in the Turning Stone area. Always carried herself as a professional. It was always very clear she was going to be good. She has to be the best of the best as far as
seems like a good choice.
If we're qualifying by gender. She just has the most experience playing the high stakes. Like that in and of itself has to count for a lot.
Plus winning stars reg, so she gets my vote.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess she's still playing a lot online.
Foxen's pretty solid looking dude as well. Like if I was a chick, pretty good choice.
He's a fucking beast, man.
It looks good.
He is a beast, and honestly, like I really appreciate the fact that too. Like he plays balanced, but like not so balanced that he's not doing some shit.
Right, he's out there. You can tell this guy just doesn't want to fold. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, man. It is just like I think he really is the perfect example of like a live hybrid, where I'm sure if you asked him, would he rather play, $5 million worth of online buy-ins or $5 million worth of live buy-ins where the same prize pools were up, I imagine he would take live every single time.
Oh yeah, he seems like he's got a good table presence and stuff about him as well.
Yeah. I've only played with him once. It was live at the Bike Cash. Very different. Not that he's not a good cash player, but it's very clear that like he's much more honed in on tournament play. And even still there, it's just like when there's a bunch of people who are fighting for every single pot, it just becomes like even more. I don't want to call it a hostile environment because I think we all like each other, but it's just this like we're all battling between me, him, Garrett, and a couple other guys. It's like we all want every single chip that's on the table.
Do you reckon Andy or Garrett better in their lineups that they play? Who's a bigger crusher, do you reckon?
I think slightly Garrett. I've actually known Andy longer. He's been a grinder, man. He used to come to Vegas like 08, 09, play the uncapped games at Venetian, winning Bellagio. It's funny. It was back when Cash played, and I
I
only
like
knew
Cash
him.
playing. I think it's cool.
Oh, it was so gangster back then.
Yeah.
But I only knew him as the Asian guy who could count hundreds really fast. So like he would take like a 10K stack and just sift through it so fast. And it was always so accurate. It was just like, who is this wizard and what is he doing? His game's
That's cool.
improved a ton the last couple of years.
Do you credit Soul
Not
for
that
Y for that?
No. We haven't done any work together.
Okay.
And it's not that he was ever bad, but it's just like it's very clear he's putting in a lot more work and study than he ever has in the past. And I would probably say the same about Garrett too. I'm sure that he's like
He's running
crunching a lot of
Sims.
sims. Yeah, I think so.
Garrett runs Sims.
Yeah.
He's a node
Yeah, for
locker.
sure.
He's got to be a node locker. Do you know what that is? Just to clarify.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I run Sims.
All right.
I
don't lock any nodes, man. I gotta tell you, bro.
I do.
I don't lock a single node. They're all unlocked. All right.
If you're running Sims for the live environment, it shouldn't take very many before you start locking a lot of nodes.
Yeah, but I mean, running a sim against a fish, like you don't really need to do that.
Well, that's the thing though, is that what you would qualify as a fish in the online environment is a winning reg in the live environment.
Don't know.
Like wherever you think that threshold is, right? Wherever you think the line is between, I don't know what is the next level up from a fish, a losing reg.
Yeah.
Okay, so wherever you think the line is between shit reg and fish, it drastically moves. So that shit reg is definitely beating live, and that fish is probably like breaking even.
Fuck, it's a good game out there, man.
There's a lot of good games out there, man. There are.
You gotta get your boy in. I need to make some money though first, dude. I'm playing fucking 200 nil.
The problem is it's too slow for online guys. Nobody wants to come in not put in volume.
I'm a big tanker. Don't worry. I won't fall asleep.
Worse. Put me to sleep.
Yeah, no, I feel you. But like, I would play some live again. My experience playing live recently was kind of cool. It was like, it's about 3 years ago now. I was playing like a 2550 Plo game, and I had like a quarter of myself, and it was a lot of money to me as well at the time. But like, there were massive pots, and my like ex was running the game. She was. Was I seeing her at the time? No, we were broken up. Anyway, she ends up kicking me out of the game because she's just like too pissed off that I'm winning. Like she was hoping to like bust me for my role. She's a bit of a vengeance bitch.
Man, brutal.
I think. But no, she bought a piece of me, and like the only time she like bought a piece of me, I like lost. And then she was they saw me play this hand. This fucking guy was blind, and they refused to believe me. This dude is a massive boss gambler. He was completely blind in this hand. And he'd like already 4-bet. I had ace queen 10-8 with like 3 hearts, and I like just potted versus him, and he looks at his hand, wakes up with aces, and like ships on me. I'm just like, fuck, whatever, cool. Right. Run it 3 times and win 2. And they were like, I can't, like, they were telling me after, like, dude, you what are you doing? Like, we're buying a piece of you playing like this. I'm like, bro, the guy hadn't looked at his fucking hand. They're like, nah. He said he looked at his hand. It's like, you fucking trust him? He's joking around. He doesn't give a fuck what he's doing, man. This guy's like straddles every single hand, like for maximum.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it's just funny.
It's a tough argument from your side when he wakes up with aces.
I felt like he had it too, but it was just like, whatever. Cool.
What can you do, man?
I was getting in like bad queens against this guy pre-pot for like 700 BB. Yeah. The guy like literally had any hand in some spots. He just wanted to juice the pot. So like I would pot and he would flat. Or like he would min raise and it would go like flat around the table. And then I would repot and he would repot just to tilt people who had put in like that money pre. Because he knows it's annoying. Plus like he doesn't mind having any 4 cards against aces and Plo when there's the dead money. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we were playing ridiculously deep. It was a good game. I ended up winning a lot of money and then buying some Bitcoin and shit. So it worked out right for me.
Very, very special. That's live. Everything you just described to me is live. Like that doesn't sound like an anomaly. That sounds like a Saturday game.
Yeah. We had the Chinese dudes in there as well. Like the older guys tend to like fake straddle under the gun with AA type of thing. Do you see that much in your games?
Oh yeah.
You just know they have it though. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's like this certain thing in the culture there where that stuff is like revered.
It's fine.
Like getting over on people. Yeah, they like
you just let it go. Yeah,
it's a part of the gamesmanship to them. You know what I mean? And they're losing EV in so many other spots that it's just like, okay, I mean,
Yeah,
we'll just keep an eye
I was
out
once
for
playing
it.
a live game where like they had my mate was the dealer, and
Mhm.
the guy running the game would have this like signal. I can't remember what it was, but like when he did the signal, my mate is supposed to double rake the pot.
Okay.
So it's like kind of a sus game, right? But
Yeah, for sure.
this one old guy, they like got it in pre in some fucking spot. Like one dude was blind or whatever the fuck, right? And somehow one of the cards was like dealt too early, or there was no burn or some shit. And then
Okay.
like they voted on reshuffling it and redealing it, and like whatever, some dude lost the pot that might have won the pot. Some bullshit like that went down basically.
Okay.
And the old guy was like, no, you know, he didn't say shit. He was just like, not having it kind of thing. And like maybe he was a bit connected, but either way the house ends up just like giving them both the pot, like paying the full amount. This is the same game. This is the same game where like they're double raking, sneaking on these fuckers, right? But like out of respect to the old guy, who's like, you know, people respect this guy, even though he's fucking cheat straddling under the gun with aces and hold him and shit like that. They like just give him the pot.
That's wild, man.
It's interesting, eh?
Yeah, I played in some pretty shady games coming up, like in the underground scene in Pittsburgh. There was a game that was run in the basement of a restaurant where the game runner his name was Mike the Greek. Nobody had any idea what he did. The owner of the restaurant also played in the game. There were 4 or 5 other quote unquote restaurant owners, but effectively just racketeers. You know, they're just in the numbers business.
And who were you?
And then I was the only pro who was allowed in the
So
game.
you're a restaurant customer, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the guys goes, "Hey, if you want to go legit, I'll put you on my payroll for $5K a year, and you can just claim that you work at the restaurant and claim that as your taxes." And I'm just like, I'm just gonna claim my taxes legitimately. It's fine. I don't need to.
That was his side hustle,
like,
man. Don't mess with his side hustle.
Yeah, it's like I don't need to launder money, but you know, thanks, I appreciate it. But then there was this other guy who was like 75 years old, and his name was Blairsville Johnny. So he was just from this town called Blairsville. But it didn't take long before it came out that he was a hitman in the 70s.
It's hard to believe these kind of rumors. You hear a lot of these kind of rumors live.
Yeah.
I hope they're true, but you know, sometimes you're like, probably not.
It seemed believable. Everything about that room in and of itself and the cast of characters was as sketchy and shady as you could imagine it to be. I played a pot against Mike the Greek that ran the game. Wild action guy, right? Like, you know, they're raking fistfuls in every single pot, and the only way we could get it back was that Mike played in the game would lose 20K every night. So we're playing 10-20, and something happened where I ended up playing an all-in pot with him with sixes on like it was like a 3 or 4 bet pot, and the board came like 8 high, 2 spades, and somehow by the turn, which was like a deuce, we got all the money in, and he ends up having queen 7 of spades.
Is that a flush?
No, it's just a flush draw.
Right.
And ultimately 2 overs against my hand. And I hold and win. And he was sitting in the 9 seat, and I was sitting in like the 7-ish. And he was an older guy, probably in like his early 60s, late 50s, early 60s. And one of the other guys, who was a legitimate businessman, just the biggest fish in the world, nicest, sweetest guy on earth, jumps up after he sees my hand. He goes, "Holy shit, Matt, you had to have seen Mike's cards. You had to have seen his cards." It's like, this is not the game to say something like that, even if you're joking. And I'm like a 22-year-old kid at the time who just won like a 20K pot and is shitting himself. So, you know, Mike did have a tendency of like pulling his cards off the table when he looked at them. So from that moment on, he was convinced that I saw his cards. And, you know, he didn't put a hit out on me or anything like that. But I came back to the game 3 weeks in a row, and he always pulled my chair. He would make the game 6-handed if they were 7. He would make it 7-handed if they were 8, 8-handed if they were 9, 9-handed if they were 10, if I was sitting there waiting. And I just kept showing up thinking he would eventually give me a seat back. I never got to play again.
Should have like looked up what a Greek gift was and like bought him that and apologized and be like, "Look, man, I really didn't see your cards. I just thought that you had Ace King. Put you on Ace King."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You know what? I put people on Ace King. That's sweet, man. All
Bro,
right.
it was brutal too because he kept telling my friend that he wasn't upset with me and he would let me in the next week. And so I kept showing
I guess
up.
he got you back just wasting your time a bit. But I mean, he
Yeah.
paid you the pot. He didn't like try and take it back or
No,
some
yeah,
shit.
nothing like that. It was, there's honor amongst thieves, I guess. I guess I could take some solace in the fact that he ultimately went to jail for some sort of like shady crime and
Always some
passed
dude you
away
played
there.
live with in the papers, eh? Like, dude gets busted, deported, all
Yep.
his funds taken. You're like, I fucking know that guy. I stacked that
Yeah,
guy once. He's a fucking spewing fish. Yeah.
there was a guy when I first moved to Vegas in 2009. There was a guy who was on like CNBC or something, one of those like nightly shows, and he had gone to federal prison for murdering his wife. It had been like a cold case for like a decade, and I found out about it like years after playing in his game.
It's not too good.
A lot of shady characters out there, man. Just trying to get
I
by day
guess
by
so,
day.
yeah. I mean, I did get scammed when I staked some people. I'm too trusting, though, honestly. I just
Yeah,
believe in the good of people sometimes. I don't know.
I get it.
I'm a little
I'm
more
very
sketched
much the
these
same.
days, though. But, like, I would trust you, for example. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I trust that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's like, whatever. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I'm also very trusting to a fault, so I just like kind of create like fail safes in my life where it prevents me from myself. Like I just don't loan money. It's just a policy, right?
It's a
Not
good policy.
because yeah, it's just like it's not because I don't trust that there are a lot of people who will pay me back. It's just I don't want to deal with the fact that I've ultimately going to get burned loaning money for no good reason. Like there's no upside to it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's some people that it would be, like, fine. But, yeah.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of people that would be fine. It's just
You're
it's one
saying
of
you
those
don't
things where
do
it's
it
like
even if it's for someone that's fine.
right. Unless like it's um I
So,
shouldn't
like,
say
you
that.
make Christians like, oh, man, can you give me 5K? Like, my fucking chips are in the car. You're like, sorry, bro, I
Yeah.
don't loan
I
money.
mean no,
Don't
I mean
loan
like
money,
he's
I don't
family.
borrow money. You know who
He's
that
family,
is?
it's different. No, who?
That's Sammy Faha.
Ah,
I don't loan money, I don't borrow money. Anyway.
the great wizard
Great play. Did you
Farha.
ever play with that dude, man?
No, unfortunately. I'm
What a
sorry I missed
boss,
those
man.
times.
What
Yeah,
about Eli
he is.
Lesra? Is he actually a scammer or some shit? That's what people are saying, right?
I don't know. I've gotten to play with him a little bit just in tournaments here and there. Seems like a reasonable enough guy.
Hot
But
daughter.
yeah, I've definitely never really gotten to know whether or not he's like out to get people, whether or not he's stealing. I don't know, man. There's so much shit in the poker community. It's like it kind of is what it is. You just let it happen until you get fucked by it, and then you try to send PSAs whenever you are positive that other people got scammed. I know that like he did owe some people, but like I'm pretty sure I saw like the whole him and Deeb thing. Deeb came out publicly said that Eli was trying to work out payment plans and things of that nature.
Yeah. Fucking some people. I just remember Ellie posted, like, they wanted to advertise his book on 2+2, and the thread just
Yeah,
became like, this fucking guy owes someone money or something,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. It was pretty wild.
His book probably didn't do too. To be fair, I mean, advertising a book to a bunch of regs, like a book by a fish to a bunch of regs, I mean, it's not really a great
Right.
business spot for them.
Yeah, it's not going to perform all that well.
One time
It
he limp
was
raised Sammy from the button with Queen Deuce off, though. I thought that was
wow.
fucking gangster. He
He probably had
limps
the
the
best hand
button in
too.
like a triple straddle or whatever into Sammy's blind.
Yeah,
Sammy goes for like the 100 line of punishing with like, I don't even know what, just some piece of shit on toast.
yeah,
And
utter nonsense.
it just puts in like a fucking third of his stack with Queen Deuce. He's like, do you know what? And then Sammy says something like, oh man, something about like Hollywood acting performance, because he believes that Ellie just has like AA or whatever and folds.
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
Doesn't even show him. You'd think that Ellie would
Sure.
show him there, but no. Just playing some cards, man.
Yeah, fuck it.
What about Negreanu, man? Thoughts on that dude?
I'm a pretty big Negreanu fan, to be honest. I think
He
that
sucks.
I think he's a good dude. I
Boo.
think that I think it's pretty unfair a lot of the criticism he takes. I understand the whole stars thing. I get that. Um, I understand why people would be like bothered that he was kind of talking out of the side of his mouth. But
It just doesn't seem trustworthy to me. That's my main thing with him. It's not really about the stars. It's just in general. He's kind of a slimy
yeah,
character.
I kind of think the opposite. I feel like this guy like really dedicated himself to the game, and don't get me wrong, like he's been paid back handsomely by the opportunity that he's been afforded.
Yeah.
But coming from the 2003 era to now, he's been one of the most accessible guys, and with his level of success along the way, like, he doesn't have to do a lot of the shit that he does do. And maybe some of that's narcissism, where he wants to remain in the public eye
I
and
think so.
be relevant. I think all that's fair, but I also think that it largely does come from a good place. Like, he does a lot of good shit that doesn't get publicity, and to be thrown under a bus for 18 months about some comment he made about Rake and pros and
It
whatever.
wasn't a
It's just
comment.
like,
It was more like standing by the decisions,
yeah,
more or less. To be fair, they
Yeah,
were like
but-
actually awful business decisions, like really bad.
right.
I think they lost
Right,
like a
they're-
huge amount of customers and probably more money overall. They had
Most
like
likely.
monopoly on online poker, basically.
Yeah, and the thing is that, like, what else was he supposed to do? I know that it's easy for everybody to
Well,
say,
he's
like,
rich
well,
enough that like principle probably matters more than money. Like he didn't need to continue his contract with them.
but that's what people don't understand, is that he's rich because of that contract. He had equity in the company, right? Like, it's easy for an Ike to step down who's just getting an annual salary, but with Negreanu, it's like he had equity in stars.
Okay, but like
there's a big-
fundamentally, the decisions about the rake were probably not too good.
No,
Also
they were horrible,
promises
and I'm sure
weren't
he-
being kept. Like if I was in his position and had equity in the company, as a professional, like I probably know more about what they're doing than they do. I'd certainly want to
Yeah.
give my advice, and I would be able to
Right, but-
publicly state that, hey, look, I actually suggested this. I don't think that would be
Yeah.
causing that much of a rift. I would just put on Twitter, I'd be like, look, this is what I'm proposing to PokerStars. They wanted to make some changes. I think these might be better. What do you guys think? That wouldn't be like a, oh, you're fired kind of spot.
I mean, it might be, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I
that's
guess
the
so.
whole thing. It's like, he's under contract to promote the site, so whenever he takes a different approach where he's more protective of his own brand than theirs,
Yeah,
it becomes a little bit dice.
I can understand it. Like at the end of the day, man, I would sell out. Like if I needed to for my own success and future.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to, but like to be fair, if I'd made it, if I was like worth 10 million, nah, fuck that shit. I'd never take
Yeah.
any orders from anyone
Yeah, it's just
except my point
to be
guard.
able to make sure. For him to be able to make 8 figures on PokerStars selling to Amaya, it's like that's a pretty big.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That should keep him rolled to lose money in high stakes for a bit longer.
Yeah, as long as he's interested, he'll be in the ring, I think.
Yeah, yeah. The whole thing's interesting. Ivy's my man. Like, I kind of feel bad. Like, he's just sort of heading down the toilet right at the moment.
I honestly have no idea. I mean, it seems like the legal battles that he has with the Berkey group, it's just limiting what he can do in the United States.
Is that like his lawsuit with the casinos from Britain? Is that what you're referencing?
No, the ones with MGM and Berkey.
For
So that happened
similar
in New Jersey.
similar things?
Yeah, I didn't even know that he lost the one. I thought that they just never paid him with the one in London.
He like lost the case, man. I mean, isn't that just so
I know
fucked?
he lost the case.
Like,
Yeah,
can't a
it's super
guy
fucked.
just like outplay the casino? Isn't it their fault?
No.
Like, what the fuck?
That's the thing. It's like, no, they just won't allow it.
But their whole
But I think-
business is like scamming you into a spot that's terrible and like saying that
Yeah.
it's fun. That's their whole business.
No,
Can't you scam them? Can't you business them? They're like,
You would
nah,
think so.
man, these guys pay more tax than you, bruh, so they win. It's like, yeah, fuck that. Like, it's just a
That's,
one-off
that's-
story, man. Like, he's a hero, Like, let
Yeah.
people come into your casino and try and cheat, They're probably just going to lose money.
Right. Yeah, I think that that's obviously very fair. But they're going to do everything they can to protect their business model, and unfortunately, the law's on their side.
It's just not
I
that much
think-
money to them, though,
It is, though. I mean, that was 16 million, I think, in London,
It's
right?
fuck all money, man. Like, to them, it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that they just froze his assets in London, never paid him, and then he lost the court case. So that just washed out. The one in the Berkey, they actually paid him, I think, 8 million.
Ooh. And now, like, he might not even have kind of thing.
So now he lost that case as well, and they've frozen all of his assets. So like, he came to the World Series this summer, cashed in some tournaments, and they immediately were like
Right.
seizing any cashes that he
I saw
actually
that
had.
thing with like Trincher or some shit. Like they apparently staked him for the tourney or some bullshit. There was some text.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
guys want to be paid before the
Right.
government gets paid, which
Right.
if that's true, obviously seems fair. It's not really
Seems
cool
fair. It
that
seems
they
also
pay
like
the dudes buy-in and then lose all the
right.
money.
I mean, I feel like they're drawing dead, but yeah,
It's
if we're
bullshit if
talking
they're
about,
drawing dead. It's really just fucked. But yeah.
I mean,
Not a
I
good
doubt that they
business
have
move
like
to have made that though, considering the factors. Assuming they knew.
right, right, and also I doubt that they have like contracts, and even if they do, I'm not so sure that they would hold up in the court of law. And
Right, it's more just
I
like a
mean, the government
tax.
just, yeah, exactly. The government just has like all the leverage here.
Yeah, government should be less of a cunt though, and just like let people have money.
Imagine a government that is just so free and nilly about their money.
Yeah, what do you reckon of this? Or I'll hit you with a business idea. This is the T's
Okay,
business idea for a country. So just
all right,
try to slowly replace all necessary businesses with the following non-profit model. That's
okay,
operated under the control of the government, but there are still people that have a department that like run it. So let's say a
okay,
supermarket. So instead of having like a
mhm,
private supermarket, you have this one shop and it lists how much people are getting paid, how much items cost, like from the farmers each time, etc., everything like that, and it charges 0% markup. The only thing
okay,
it considers is like overhead costs it might need, like insurance costs, blah blah blah, like everything like that. All the information's face up to the customer. Everybody would shop at this place, and you know that they're not making any money. Like you can see, okay, the manager gets a pretty good salary, and like the people who run this supermarket or the chain or whatever look after all of the things that have to do with the goodness of the business. They get paid still a decent salary. It's fair, but there's zero coming off the top. It's literally a non-profit supermarket. Just replace every business.
okay,
Insurance company, same deal. Every single thing in your country get replaced by that. Obviously, like the banks are going to start wars over this kind of thing, I imagine,
sure,
because like it
yeah.
ruins them completely. But like you could start this shit in a country like New Zealand, maybe get away with it. I don't know.
Um, I think it's fair and reasonable, but what would the incentive be?
For the people by the people movement. Like, why would if the people were aware of that, why would they not want that to be the case? Why do you want to pay
No,
money
I think
additional than you have to?
right. I think you would definitely get consumers. I guess what I'm saying is like, what would be the incentive, or like, where would these entities spurn from? So would the government be the ones
Yeah,
starting them?
basically would have to. So it'd be like, look, this is
Right.
what we propose. We're going to execute this. From now on, supermarkets will be replaced by these. We recommend you stop shopping at private supermarkets. And I mean, everyone would, because everything would be way cheaper. Why would you not shop
Yeah.
there? Also, it's great for the
Yeah.
farmers. Like the farmers could be like, hey, look, guys, you know what? It's been a rough season. We want to charge more for this. Like, so milk's going to end up costing you guys a bit more this year, but hopefully next year, this and that. And we're all like, well, it's the cheapest available price. Like, obviously, the farmers still have some leverage, but it's fine to give farmers leverage. Like, them getting shafted sucks. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I think like insurance companies are another really good one to look at. Like instead of there being like you'd still have departments for claims. Like you don't want people scamming the insurance company like for the general good. But instead of profit being taken off the top, everybody just pays X amount for insurance, and then at the end of the year, like there's an overhead. Whatever amount of money wasn't used for all claims gets divided back equally and sent like equal to the percent that you committed to the pool back to everybody. So like every year you might pay more.
I mean, this is the backbone of like healthcare for all. These are just socialistic ideas, which I think have some merit in some um, different elements of the market. I think healthcare being the number one primary example, education also being another good example of it. Um, but the problem is like that word is very scary to capitalistic countries. So it's difficult to look at a world power like the United States and say like, hey, why don't you strip yourself down for the greater good and start acting out for the whole of everyone? And for people who are driven by profit, it's just very easy to say like you're a socialist. This isn't going to function because it disincentivizes people to strive for anything, right? Like if you put a ceiling on or a cap on people's earning potential, then they have a lot less incentive to get out there and actually try to earn. And I think there's merits to both sides.
I
I
don't think
obviously
all
think the answer.
businesses should be privatized, just necessary things.
You mean the
I
opposite?
mean,
Publicized.
yeah, publicized, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like examining the necessities to your point, I think is very fair and reasonable. Um, but along that same lines, you're giving government a lot of power.
True.
Like they could just jack it up. They don't have to operate it as a nonprofit, right? They could run on a platform of this election cycle, we're not going to raise taxes, but we are going to increase the cost of goods by 10%, right? And essentially, you're still taxing every. Um, this happens in a myriad of ways already. The problem is that like politics are so fucking messy,
Mm.
markets are so messy. It's just very difficult, especially in a nation as large as the United States, with such a variety of people with different backgrounds, different wealth profiles, and all this other stuff. It's very hard to find level footing. Your example of the Netherlands is much better. It's very small. It's homogenistic. Um, you know, everybody's willing to kind of work for their neighbor, kind of thing, because it's so heavily rooted in nationalism and all these other things that allow people to collectively come together. It just fails at a much grander scale. Like whenever you try to scale that out to like India or China or America or whatever the case may be, it becomes a lot more challenging.
Yeah, and I'm sure like my way I've described the situation isn't really perfect either. I just think there's something to it. Maybe not a non-profit completely, but some sort
Right.
of business where like the customer has all the information and can make the decisions, and they feel like,
I would
hey, look, I'm paying this money. It's going to that cashier. It's going to this person. Those kind of
I would
things.
definitely be all for transparency. Like if much like nutrition labels,
Sure.
um, businesses had to start listing out like where the profit or like
Yeah.
what the actual wholesale cost was versus the retail cost and where
They
that
wouldn't like that, eh? That'll be a rough one for them.
it would be tough. It would create I guess room for good actors to compete. But yeah, like particularly with things like insurance, imagine how helpful that would be if you get to see like what the wholesale cost is, what the retail cost is, how much of a profit margin is actually being taken, and now all of a sudden you could potentially just like circumvent the insurance and say like, look, you're my doctor, I will give you cash, and you will make more than if I went through my insurance.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see some kind of shit like this go down. I think over the next 30 years, maybe. It's hard to say. I think
Yeah,
like Bitcoin's influence is gonna make people realize, like, assuming that it works successfully, at some point in the next 10 years, it's gonna make people realize that like peer to peer is really everything about like how we can do better as individuals in society, and like
right.
rewarding these like monopolizing companies is just atrocious. That we need to stay away. If
Yeah,
that ever has like a
I
power
definitely
balance
agree.
shift, like because the internet is like the birth of the internet is like the death of all of these like monopolizing companies and whatnot, because
Yeah, I
the
mean it creates a
information is
global
able
economy.
to link to each other. Yeah,
Right. It also creates a global economy instead of instead of a local one. So, now all of a sudden everything comes to a grander scale and we start to solve problems very differently.
yeah, man. I hope we get to see some cool shit basically in our lifetime.
I think that there's a strong possibility we will.
My man in the
Um, uh,
chat, Cap, he asked a question. He says, "How do you think the recession will affect online poker industry?" Do you have any thoughts on that?
Man, that might be a question better served for you. I think there'll be a small boost in the
Short
short
term,
run.
yeah.
Yeah, we're all forced to stay indoors, but enjoy it while you can. There's gonna be a lot of loose money out there, a lot of losing players taken to the online streets in one way, shape, or form or another. But overall, I imagine that it's going to be business as usual. I have a very apocalyptic look at the online realm. I think something has to give. Right now, I kind of see it as like day trading, where the high frequency traders with the best technology are just winning, and it's gravitating further down that path. Real time assistance, real time solvers, better data, better data analysis, all this stuff, it's just going to make edges thinner and thinner and thinner until they just evaporate. And that's not really through the byproduct of humans getting better at poker. It's through the byproduct of the technology getting more sound, more accurate, more
More
precise,
available.
yeah, more available. So I don't know what has to give. I think like sites are going to have to go the extra mile to ensure that people are making their own decisions and are being rewarded for hard work rather than just gaining an edge through the best technology.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think like I don't think online will die because like at the end of the day, like a fish still wants to gamble. Like there's going to be one fish, there's going to be 5 regs. That's still a good game no matter what. But the fact that people will potentially be able to use it's not like real-time solvers as far as I know. It's going to be like databases of solved hands. So say you have like a database. The thing is, even that database is fucking impossible to get down, but you can generalize it. But like for example, say I open to 2.35 BB. You're not going to have the sim for that in your like standard database. You know that would have to be something that you run completely different. I have a different prefab range. You have a different prefab range defending your big blind against that particular sizing. You know, it does change things, but like, you know, sims are going to be similar enough. If somebody has just like a database of like a standard open size, like 2.5 blinds at a cash game, and they have every board run in like all of the spots basically, and they can like use voice activation to call like a command like, hey, you know, this position, single raise pot at this board, and like it just like shows the strategy and rolls you a dice. You can't really beat that shit, so that sucks.
It's game over. It's game over. It's like, and where's the skill to that?
Well, it's just cheating. Yeah, there's no skill.
Yeah, and the thing is though, is it? I mean, like, what if they actually took the time to run all those sims? Right?
They probably wouldn't remember them that well, and like the sickest boss.
No. Like I agree. I'm saying that they are actually recalling work that they did, right? So it's like effectively they did their research. And now they're just using real-time assistance in order to call it up in real time.
Right. I think it's fair that you could run sims if you have to remember the results of everything. And if you're just that fucking good at remembering shit and like guessing shit based on that, fine, you're the best player, that's cool. But like anytime you're looking at a range of hands that's like in a complicated spot, I'm pretty sure that's against TOS. Like stars, you're allowed to have like basic hand charts, which I believe is just like opening range you're allowed to look at. But like you can't have like a sheet that's like what you 3-bet against from this position against that position, and what calls the 4-bet and what 5-bets and what folds. That would be cheating.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. It's just unable to be policed is the problem.
Yeah, because you could have like, a second PC, you could have a second internet connection if that was necessary.
Yeah, like GG. What we're labeling it isn't really nearly as important as like what the actual practicality is. And the practicality is that we're gravitating more towards this existing on a grand scale than we are gravitating away from it.
I think the thing that hurts most is high stakes. Because people are able to play just 1 table, 2 tables, and like print with that kind of thing. Whereas at mid stakes, like you probably just better, if you're a good player, you're probably just better off playing double the tables. You know?
Right.
And if you're playing that many tables, you're not going to be like, oh, fucking trying to sim shit while you're playing. You're just going to be playing.
Yeah.
So I think mid stakes is probably all good. But yeah, if you're high stakes player, I'd be suspicious, especially heads up. Fuck. Yeah, because it's not hard to run sims for heads up. Like, it's 1v1. There's only going to be like maybe you pick 3 preflop sizings, but then you could just run every board for those sizings, and you're probably sorted. Yeah. So
yeah, those databases are dangerous too. To have that kind of real time information is just like, you know, that's pretty difficult to outmaneuver. You're basically trying to play a zero sum game.
Yeah, with rake.
Yeah. Right.
So like you have to be sure if you're using real time assistance and you think they might be, you're like, fuck. This is brutal.
Right, exactly. Like your edge is the fact that you are able to get you know, on the right side of the quote unquote zero sum game.
You like PM them, you're like, bruh, and then you like name the product question mark, they're like, oh fuck, alright, you just insta sit out each other. GG.
That's a very dark and gloomy thought. I think.
But I think like 6 max mid stakes, that's gonna hang around, man. Like I said, like fish gonna gamble. The game's gonna run.
Yeah, but the problem is that like without the higher games, now the better players are gonna keep going down and down and down. They have to get their volume somewhere.
You could win in a lineup that has a fish if you're like not the best rig at the table. That's okay.
Sure. That's true, but it has that suppression effect the whole way down, right? So
I mean, a lot of the high stakes guys just ain't gonna do it. You know, they'll just be like, fuck it, play live or quit. They're not gonna move down to 200 NL.
Yeah, I hope you're right, man. I don't know. I feel like online guys are a different breed where, you know, it's kind of like the DFS player. It doesn't matter if they're firing 100 lineups in a 1K buy-in or a $1 buy-in. Like the EV is the EV.
Maybe, but like I came up 2010 and like all the high stakes dudes, like I was playing like 25-50 at that point. All the high stakes dudes that I was with that I knew the names, I'm like, that dude's sick or they've all quit. Like, none of them play anymore, and they all just like probably bought a house, like got a life. Like, I know one of them's a dentist. He like said hi in my stream the other day, but like most of them have just quit poker. You know, they made their money. They probably bought a house at least, and that's cool. Move on, because like it's not that much fun. You know, you get sick of that shit. Especially
burnout is definitely a real thing too, for sure. Yeah, I get it. I understand everything that you're saying. I guess like, you know, even if we cycle through all of that though, and now all of a sudden mid stakes is like the plateau, there's less reason to get involved.
Not as much to win hourly wise,
yeah, for the next generation, right? There's nowhere to scale to, which is all great for live, but I do think that like long term, something has to give online. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of see it collapse underneath itself.
Yeah, like shorter time banks could obviously help, but that kind of sucks. It's like, imagine being 500 BB deep with a guy, you got like a 15-second time bank on the turn in the river.
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
They actually run that on Ignition, I believe, which is sick if you overbet people, right? Like, imagine some dude just shoves 10x the pot on the river, you got like 15 seconds. Do you think people overcall or overfold? Say it's like a board with a flush.
Definitely overfold. Definitely overfold, for sure.
But they got the second nuts. It's like, fuck, I got the second nuts. 3, 2,
well,
1,
in that case,
3,
that's
2.
definitely call. Yeah, definitely call.
And nut flush. I bet 20x pot. You know, I don't know, man. It's hard to tell. I feel like some people would find that like 1 second left call, you know?
That's me for sure. Just exhaust every fucking second knowing you're calling every single time.
Yeah, it's tilting as fuck on the other end when someone does it to you, just so you know. It really hurts.
Oh, that's good.
I like bluff the river guy uses a 60-second fucking time bank, calls me with 0 seconds left, and I'm just bluffing. It's like, oh,
motherfucker. That's actually somewhat relieving.
Nice.
But yeah, I think MTTs will probably be what survives.
Sucks, fucking MCTs.
Yeah.
They're okay. Having 10 blinds going all in is just boring, you know what I mean? Fold,
Trust
fold.
Me,
please don't call me. Fuck, I'm dead. Alright, that was 30 hours well spent.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it this entire fucking podcast. I got down to the final 20% of the field twice, and just had 15 blinds, went broke. What are you going to do?
No fun. My man Dr. Upswing in the chat, he won in 2014 the $1 million Sunday Million. So like the one that has $1 million first place, that's next week.
Sick. Congrats. What's it like to be a millionaire?
Yep, he didn't have all of himself and he had to pay tax, so
well,
it wasn't close to $1 million.
Why did you even bother, man?
Just giving him a shout out. I saw him in the chat. I was like, hey man, there's a tourney winner.
I'm fucking around. That's awesome. I never won the Sunday Million. I'm sorry. I wish I had a crack at it.
Yeah, I bubbled the final table once. That was as close as I got.
Heartbreaking.
I was 3 of 12. I came 12th. It's bad.
God, that's so brutal.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I would have played like shit. Like, I remember reshoving on someone with like ace 2 suited. It was probably atrocious.
But, yeah, man, everybody played like shit back then.
Yeah.
Or was this like last week?
Nah, this is ages ago.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, looking back, man, I mean, good chat, dude. I think we'll probably wrap it up. I mean, I've been wasting enough of your time. Like, it's been quite a while, bro.
That's fine. I've just been peacefully grinding. You kept me from shouting a few obscenities at least along the way.
Nice. I shout some obscenities too. Yeah, man. Best of luck with the business and everything like that, and the transition to the next stage. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. Obviously, if you ever make it out to Vegas, let me know. Let's grab a bite. Maybe talk about some things. See what's going on.
Yeah, cool, bro.
Yeah, keep in touch in the meantime too. I'll check out a stream here and there whenever I get a chance.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I mean, I'll call you back up at some point if you want. See if we got like a hot topic going on. Maybe get you in, see what's good. But definitely fun. That was like double the length of my last time I had a dude on. So this is my second time ever hosting someone. So it was super fun. Yeah.
All right, I'm into it. This is way more lax than I was expecting.
I'm not a griller, man. I'm a fan. All right, I'm a fan.
I appreciate your style. I really appreciate the style. Yeah, man, I'm into it. For sure, if you ever get out to Vegas, like we can do it live in our vlogcast setting.
Sounds awesome. And also, if you happen to think of something that you don't want me to upload, like from this video, I can edit that out. Just let me know.
It's fine. Don't sweat it.
All right. But yeah, that's about it, man. I'll hit you up another time, but have a good one. Good luck in the tourneys for the WSOPE or WSOP.com.
Yeah,
and
online.
Maybe you should affiliate for them if you're not already doing that, because that could be an okay little spot.
I don't know if they do that, But
Any
I
smart
will-
business does. You should probably try and get the guy in.
Yeah, but they're just so restricted because it's only Nevada and Jersey. So it's like, who the fuck lives in Nevada and Jersey that doesn't already play online
I see.
that would want to now? But
Okay.
yeah, I'm actually very well. My best friend actually is the head of online, so I have an in, to say the least.
That's pretty good in, man. You should use that in. Because
Yeah,
if they offer rakeback, like getting a cut of rakeback of players that you sign up is pretty, decent
yeah.
ongoing deal. And who
Yeah,
knows,
I
maybe
think I'm gonna
that
try to.
becomes one of the bigger sites in the States as well, if they're already in the door. So
It would be nice to see it go nationwide legal. I think that would be a pretty big step forward for everybody. And honestly, I think like the way that they run their software is tackling some of those issues that I was speaking to. Like, there's no HUDs. They don't offer hand histories, so it does really restrict a lot of the data that people can pull from the site, which I think is nice.
yep. It kind of sucks to not be able to look at your own hands later. That's the only thing I would
Yeah,
add about those. But I agree with the reasons that sites do want to do that. It seems fine to me.
yeah, yeah. I think that's true, and I get the reasons why you'd want to look, but I also think that like you just protect the integrity of the player pool for so much longer by just not allowing people to study, as shitty as it may be.
No, that's cool. It comes from the right place.
Yeah,
But yeah, man, I'll hit you up
business.
another time. Thanks for coming on and shit, dude. It's cool.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Peace.
See it.
All right, boys, that was pretty fucking cool. I like that one.